Have you heard about this Benefactor guy? This dude is talking about free energy, but here's the twist. He says it's not free energy. He's calling it energy recycling, which first off is kind of genius, right? Because when you say free energy, people immediately throw you in the crazy bin. But energy recycling, that sounds like some next level Tesla shit.
Yeah, man, it's all about the branding. But what is it that he's actually doing?
All right, check this out. He posted this. Free energy isn't actually free. This is a misnomer. It's actually a mutual exchange from the vacuum, a field of energy from which everything arises, the same energy that powers an atom. Like what? Bro, that's some deep shit. But then he breaks it down. He says you can tap into this energy without breaking any known laws of physics by using something called back EMF capture.
Whoa, back EMF capture? Sounds like some serious sci-fi tech.
Dude, listen to this. He explains that when a coil collapses using a pulse signal, the energy that would normally just get wasted, like just dissipate as heat, can actually be recycled. He says nature gives you back energy to stabilize the system. Which makes sense if you think about how nature works. Like everything in nature is always trying to find balance, right?
So equilibrium, is that like how water always levels out or something? I'm trying to remember what Ms. Murphy said to me in 6th grade science all those years ago. What was that? Oh yeah, Elon, stop eating that glue and pay attention. Man, if only I had listened, I'd probably be the one inventing energy recycling instead of just talking about it.
Exactly. So he's saying that by intentionally destabilizing the system, collapsing the field, you actually get energy back as a kind of natural response. And here's where it gets wild. He compares it to pushing a swing. If you push at the right moment, you don't need to use a lot of energy, and the swing gains momentum. But instead of a swing, he's using resonance to harness that extra energy without it becoming destructive. He says most traditional systems are like a surfer fighting against the current, while his method is like riding the wave to shore.
Dude, that's crazy. So he's basically saying the energy is already there. I just suck at using it efficiently?
That's what it sounds like. He's basically saying the way we harness energy now is like trying to swim against the tide. And if we used resonance instead, we'd be tapping into energy that's already there, just waiting to be used. I don't know, man. Either this guy is onto something or he's the most poetic bullshitter of all time.
Well, if he's legit, why isn't he all over the news? I haven't heard anything from him on X, formerly Twitter. He hasn't said anything bad about me on X. So, you know, I didn't ban him or anything. Look, I'm not the monster my therapist says I am. I mean, sure, I've spent millions of dollars training to beat a kangaroo in a fist fight, but that doesn't mean I'm dangerous. It just means I get shit done.
That's the real question, man. But here's the craziest part. I looked into him, and he's not selling anything. He open sources all of it. That's the real question, man. Either the system doesn't want to hear it, or we're about to find out if this guy disappears in the middle of the night.
Dude, that's crazy. He's absolutely crazy. That means if he's telling the truth, anybody could build this in their garage. You know what I say? Go fuck yourself, Benefactor.
Nope, no patents, no paywalls, just straight up, here, take it, see for yourself. Like, what kind of madman does that? Usually people either try to cash in or they get shut down before they can say a word. But this guy, he's out there on live streams showing people exactly how to replicate it.
I mean, if you want to try to take on my Tesla tech, how dare you put out better technology that is cheaper and safer? Go fuck yourself.
That's the thing, man. If it's real and people start building it, that's a game changer. We're talking about completely shifting how we think about energy. But also, if it's real, you got to wonder how long before somebody tries to stop it.
Or maybe we can think of it like how long before his Tesla mysteriously malfunctions.
Exactly. You ever notice how every time someone gets too close to this kind of stuff, they either disappear, get discredited, or somehow have a tragic accident? But this guy's going full transparency mode. He's putting it all out there where everyone can see it. Maybe that's his strategy. If enough people know, it can't just get buried.
Holy shit, this might be one of those moments, you know, like we look back and say that was the start of something huge.
Can't you hear his voice?
The research that you are about to see was conducted independently. The findings, including the demonstrated reversal of battery voltage under load, represents a significant, replicable proof of concept that challenges conventional models. All right, my goal here is to seek collaborative support necessary to advance this work from a compelling proof of concept to a validated, scalable technology, something that we could use in our everyday life.
Treated like a toy. Ideas misunderstood, but brilliance is his point. Benefactor boy, can't you hear his voice?
All right, welcome, and welcome back to the Benefactor's Guide to Free Energy Devices. Today we have a special episode for you. It's nothing new. It's what we've been rehashing over the last couple of weeks, but it's in a formal presentation format. We gave a presentation to the Water Tribe community over the weekend on Saturday. I want to thank Kimberly from the Water Tribe community for hosting us at the presentation, giving us time to talk and present all our breakthroughs with the coil. Now, I did record it, and we are going to be watching it. However, I'm going to be in the background trying to pull up the cues because when I recorded it, the way that I guess the platform works, Teams or team meetings, something like that, it displays it on two different screens. So we're going to pull up the visual aids manually. However, I'm going to pull up the video now for you guys, because as I've stated many times, we're going to be going over this over and over. Not that I'm stopping experimentation, but it's kind of like, if you can imagine the frustration Marco Rodin must have had when he first envisioned this new field of energy. He had to actually learn and get taught the mathematics to understand this energy, and that's what led him to discover the vortex-based mathematics. So as you can imagine, the synthetic AC model is going to follow the same footsteps. We're going to have trouble getting attention, so I'm going to do these presentations as often as possible to try to get more attention to this this model here. All right, let me see if I can pull this up. Oh, there it is. And we've paused it. I paused it at the the infamous Patterson screenshot. So whether or not that's a real benefactor in this video is to be concluded. I think this is the right spot.
All right, so Ben's going to be coming on here in a second, so I'm just going to talk about a little bit.
So the meeting of the masterminds took place over the weekend in North Carolina, hosted by Kimberly from the Water Tribe community. It's a new conference aimed at being a safe space for fringe innovators and free thinkers who might not feel comfortable going to places like Tesla Tech. As Malcolm Bendel has noted in our previous conversations, places like Tesla Tech have been infiltrated by people with nefarious agendas. Specifically, probably, I'm assuming, in the military-industrial complex, specifically the private sector, who would like to keep their stranglehold over the energy and propulsion sections of the market regarding oil, as being the top contender for how we drive our world's machinery. these new discoveries are challenging in carving their own space in that marketplace, utilizing open sourcing methods to bypass the suppression mechanisms of free energy devices of the past. So we are trying to avoid the mistakes of previous innovators, people like, I don't know, Stan Meyer and his water-powered car. So Stan Meyer infamously had a water-powered vehicle which he ran on one tank of fuel, or one tank of water, from one end of the United States to the other, from the East Coast to the West Coast, I believe. He didn't have to fill it up once. So, you know, there are various methods that, you know, we can theorize on how he achieved this, but at the end of the day, he kept it to himself, and he ended up getting assassinated. And the team that, or supposedly the team that took on his equipment, bought it in auction, disappeared as well. So anybody going into that area of fringe science trying to, I guess, reverse engineer Stan Meyer's water-powered vehicle is going to face some major opposition. So anyways, the meeting of the masterminds is a safe space for innovators and free thinkers to gather and present their findings and consult with colleagues and fellow open-minded thinkers. We had a team on after I presented that was presenting some kind of plasma healing device, and they say right in their presentation, you know, you have to utilize the back EMF component. You have to isolate the back EMF component out, and that's what you're utilizing, I guess, theoretically, for any kind of healing effect. I'm not saying that I think their device is real or not. I have to do my research on it. I'm not familiar with it, but they've open sourced it. It's basically a Tesla coil set up with 3 spark gaps and a couple of minor tweaks, and then you use incandescent light bulbs. And they say specifically because the gas inside is rare. You know, it's not something that you can, you know, commonly get outside of these light bulbs, because they mix them in a specific way. So, you know, not only do they shine bright when the gas inside is excited with enough voltage, but they also have, I think, mercury in them, or some kind of secondary gas that helps prevent the degrading of the filament inside, or the wiring. So yeah, I'm not really sure how the device works, but they use incandescent light bulbs, 2 of them, and you create a start and end point on the body, and that's how you send the signal through the body. Supposedly this is sending plasma from one end to the next using back EMF or negative electricity, which is basically just mostly potential, mostly voltage, and maybe very, very low current, if at all any. But that's the gist of what I got from the plasma device. I tried to record it, and unfortunately, the video did not record. The software crashed. I had to drive somewhere while it was recording on my platform at home, and when I came back, I think the app had crashed or something, because the video didn't save right, which is unfortunate. But I do have the diagrams and everything that they've open sourced, so we're going to be going over that at some point. But for now, let's get into my presentation.
With Dr. Horowitz and...
Yeah, they did have Dr. Horowitz on. I've not heard of him before. Apparently he is a proponent of speaking out against vaccinations, which I do not agree with. not entirely. At least not the vaccines that we've had in circulation thus far, like for polio and measles. There's a reason why we don't have polio or measles as a huge problem, and that's because we have vaccines for them. And you can look at the data and the research, but regardless, maybe there's something to the newer vaccines. I don't know the science well enough, and I'm not about to espouse it here. We are going into 0-point energy, and that is all we're going to be talking about today. This presentation is on the synthetic AC model, the theoretical framework that I've been developing over the last few months to try to understand some of the anomalies within nonlinear systems that utilize the Rodin coil. All right, can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Awesome. There is an intro video which did not, during the presentation using their application, it didn't work, but we're going to play it for you. I have it queued up, so don't worry about that. We're going to skip forward and all that. I just want to say thank you to all the masterminds and pioneers here today. And a very special thank you to Kimberly for hosting this amazing event and giving me the opportunity to present my research. I am an independent researcher. I deeply regret that circumstances prevent me from being there in person with you today. The research that you are about to see was conducted independently. The findings, including the demonstrated reversal of battery voltage under load, represents a significant, replicable proof of concept that challenges conventional models. Right? My goal here is to seek collaborative support necessary to advance this work from a compelling proof of concept to a validated, scalable technology, something that we could use in our everyday life. So this is, to my knowledge, the first demonstratable evidence of dipole preservation in a potential self-sustaining system that is open-sourced and easy to replicate. So if this research resonates with you, direct support is pivotal to its continuation and essential for my goal of delivering a live demonstration at our next gathering. I'm also very grateful for your attention this evening. So now, a journey into synthetic AC and the hidden mechanics of electricity.
Throughout modern history, there have been visionaries who dared to dream beyond the boundaries of conventional science. Inventors who sought to unlock the mysteries of alternative propulsion, antigravitics, and the enigma of over-unity energy. Yet, their stories remain shrouded in shadow. Many of these pioneers, their voices silenced, their visions extinguished. Some vanished into obscurity, while others paid the ultimate price. Suppression, it seems, has been a constant companion to innovation. But recently, there's been a glimmer of hope. A new generation of self-taught, open-minded, and independent scientists has emerged. A collective effort to combat the forces that seek to keep humanity in the dark. People like Marco Rodin, whose rediscovery of vortex-based mathematics is nothing short of mind-bending. They push the boundaries of mathematical understanding, opening doors to a new realm of possibilities by describing numbers as physical stationary interstitiary vectors in space-time whose values don't change. Unlike traditional mathematics, where numbers change while functions remain constant, this paradigm shift recognizes that in reality, functions themselves can represent the changing variables, opening doors to a new understanding of mathematical relationships. And then there's Malcolm Bendall, a man with a vision that defies convention. He introduced the plasmoid unified model, a concept that calculates the resonant frequencies of everything from the elements to colors, shapes, and even polarized cardinal directions. But Bendall didn't stop at theory. He applied his unified field theory to a revolutionary concept, converting mass into clean energy. His ingenious design mimics nature's use of plasma, producing colossal amounts of pristine energy. Bendall's vision goes beyond energy. It's about reshaping our understanding of the world and harnessing the very forces of nature to propel us into a new era. As Tesla was once accredited as saying, throughout space there is energy. Is this energy static or kinetic? If static, our hopes are in vain. If kinetic, and this we know it is for certain, then it is a mere question of time when men will succeed in attaching their machinery to the very wheelwork of nature. In the shadows of suppressed technology, these visionaries are opening doors to a brighter, more sustainable future. The plasmoid engine, a symbol of hope, innovation, and the relentless pursuit of the unknown. Join us as we delve deeper into the mysteries of plasmoids and the brave souls who dare to challenge the status quo. Here on Divine Science. For more videos on consciousness, zero-point energy, and other forms of forbidden knowledge, like and subscribe to my YouTube and TikTok channels. What are you waiting for? Arm yourself with forbidden knowledge. Subscribe today.
Going to be very exciting. The only thing that I ask, though, is that you guys keep an open mind, especially if there are any, engineers in the room. Because if one aspect of what I'm about to show you is correct, it has the potential to change the way we design circuits entirely. And this is very exciting news, because this is the culmination of years of experimentation with nonlinear electrical systems. The anomalies that I found were not random. They were patterns that forced me to question how incomplete our current electrical models really are. This is the story of my journey with the rodent coil. And yes, it involves zero-point energy. But, don't worry, we're going to keep it simple for you today. And because it's always been my philosophy that if the universe is hiding its secrets, the least I can do is make them accessible to everybody. So after all, what good are the secrets of the universe if they can only be understood by an esoteric few? That never made sense to me. At a certain point, scientific wisdom turns into spiritual wisdom because the two clearly intersect. Our ancestors understood this, from the alchemy of Sir Isaac Newton to the sacred geometry embedded in ancient architecture all over the world, to the natural philosophers who never separated physics from the metaphysics. What we now call divine science was once simply the study of reality itself, observations guided by intuition, mathematics informed by meaning, and experimentation grounded in the reverence of nature. The division between spirituality and science came much later, but the core truth did not disappear. It was merely fragmented. And part of my work is about reconnecting those fragments, so that understanding is no longer hoarded by gatekeepers, but shared on an open source platform for the sake of progress. So let me tell you how this all started, because the context is key to understanding the bigger picture. And people, they often assume I just woke up and decided, you know what, I'll chase free energy today. But it was a little more interesting than that. I've always had this problem where I seem to notice things I'm apparently not supposed to. Little gaps in logic and consistency that always got me in trouble for pointing out. And nobody likes the truth. So, with the world presenting explanations that sometimes felt like someone got tired halfway through, sometimes this would actually exacerbate my curiosity and got me interested. Got me asking questions. The more I learned about people like Nikola Tesla, people who challenged conventional theory, the more obvious it became that Tesla wasn't just a genius. He was basically mid-sentence when history cut him off. The man was simply unfinished. He was pushed aside, suppressed, and definitely not explored to completion. But honestly, none of that kicked off my obsession that I have now, until I discovered Randy Powell's suppressed TED Talk. Which I can send to you if you wanna play the suppressed TED Talk. It's very important that people understand this was a TED Talk that was supposed to be released 10 years ago or more, and it never saw the light of day to the mainstream audience. We're going to play the suppressed TED Talk now.
You're going to be proposing to establish the conditions and to stimulate research and development and expansion of that critical sector?
Well, I think it's a great question. We invested in wind, we invested in solar, we invested in biomass, we invested in research and development, we invested in battery technologies. Here's the challenge that we have. We don't yet have the technological breakthroughs that can completely replace fossil fuels. So for the next 10 years, next 20 years, we're still going to be using oil, we're still going to be using coal, we're still going to be using natural gas, we're still going to be using the traditional sources to fuel our cars, to heat our homes, to run our big power plants, etc. Unless somebody here invents something tomorrow, which would be very helpful, and if you have it, let me know.
You saw where I was going. So I'd like to say, with all due respect to the president, that this is me letting you know. I'm here speaking because I'm at the forefront right now of the most advanced mathematics ever known to mankind. And because my teacher, Marco Rodin, discovered an unknown mathematical language inherent to nature, and I found the key of how to model it in three-dimensional space. The saying is that mathematics is the language of God, but until now, no one's been speaking God's language. What we have is the grand unified field theory. With it, you can create inexhaustible free energy, end all diseases, produce unlimited food, travel anywhere in the universe, build the ultimate supercomputer, artificial intelligence, and obsolete all existing technology. How is it possible to make such outrageous claims? Because we have the secret that connects all of the world's technologies together, numbers. We discovered that numbers are real, a living language, a jigsaw puzzle that when pieced together no longer creates a rendition or approximation of reality. Numbers are reality, neither flat, nor arbitrary, nor imaginary, nor irrational. They are actually points or locations that fold out into a 3D shape defining space and time literally. Mr. Rodin discovered an equation that was so eloquent in its simplicity that it involved no more than 9 numbers around a circle. And with it, you can do all the functions of all the branches of math instantly. It displays a perfect spin symmetry of numbers, forming mirror images just like our two hands, a feat that's baffled countless scientists and mathematicians. When you look at this symbol, you immediately see it's composed of 2 aspects. One is this lazy 8, or the infinity symbol, and the other is the red pyramid at the top. The infinity symbol is the equation for the physical world we live in. It's a circuit or a pathway of motion. 6 numbers that form a hexagon. Thus, such diverse phenomena as light polarizing, beehives, Saturn's North Pole, and snowflakes are all versions of this hexagon. These shapes form pathways for any matter in motion, which is never straight, but always at an angle. Nothing in the physical world ever moves in a straight line, not a bullet shooting, not lightning coming down out of the sky. Everything is a coil, even a photon coming from a distant star, proving relativity exists. Our body is called this mortal coil. Our DNA is a coil, and it's no coincidence that it matches our equation perfectly. It makes us into a vortex machine, sucks things in at the top, and shoots them out at the bottom. As it does this, it regulates its own temperature, a really important concept for technologies that are always overheating. It's an imploding, exploding machine, a gyroscope, an antenna built to perfectly transmit and receive waveforms. In fact, Marco's antenna designs are protecting the 4 corners of the United States because they were found to be the most sensitive antennas ever created. Around the same time, he also presented at the largest genetic engineering conference in the world on DNA sequencing, thus proving the ability of this math to cross between the sciences. Jonas Salk, who was the inventor of the polio vaccine, stated that this work was so advanced it would never be understood in Marco's lifetime unless he cloned himself. And so maybe that's what I am. But what's the connection between all these sciences? And the answer is simple. It's doubling. When you follow what these numbers are doing, you get doubling. And why might that be significant? Well, our cells double to create us. We have 1 cell, conceptions, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. Musical scales are doubling. The binary code for computers doubling. Nuclear reactions, squares and square roots, all doubling. Doubling is motion at an angle, or what's called angular momentum. It's the whirlwind and treadmill of creation. It spins the atoms in our body, the Earth on its axis, the solar system, galaxy, the whole universe. And so what causes this doubling? What is it that's being transmitted and received? And that's where that red pyramid comes in. This pyramid is representative of what we call flux fields. We have electricity. At the center of electricity is magnetism. At the center of magnetism is a flux. It's a higher dimensional energy known by many names such as dark energy, tachyons, monopoles, gravitons. We call it etheron energy. It's the energy that's keeping us conscious and alive, and it's not a static or stationary energy. It's a pulse, it's a surge, it's the beating heart of all existence. It's the ultimate fundamental particle in the universe, the God particle, and I know how to harness it. This energy is the source of all time, motion, and vibration. It's the only thing that comes from the whole, or the zero, the center of the cyclone. It emanates linearly in all directions, penetrating everything without any resistance. It cannot be shielded. As it penetrates, it leaves a grain. It shows you how things move, how they stick together or come apart. It animates everything. It's the source of the non-decaying spin of the electron. If you combine it with a coil, you get a perfect mathematical vortex consisting of a positive electromagnetic energy radiating out and a negative backdraft counter space, which is the same as gravity. It allows for contraction. Etherons are literally the glue that holds the universe together. Einstein called it an inertia ether. Ultimately, when this is arrayed in true 3D shape, which is what I discovered, it forms a shape commonly known as a torus or a donut. This is nearly 20 years later. What I found was this. Essentially, this thing is a heat sink. It's a temperature regulator, just like your human body. It's a universal geometry designed for maximum efficiency and energy transformation, and an ecological method by which the universe reprocesses matter, using it as a coolant source to bathe itself at the core of a black hole and then dissipate heat away out of a white hole. It's based on compression, decompression, just like we use to control temperatures in technologies like refrigerators. The Big Bang was just one of these reactions giving birth to this expanding universe, which is expanding because we're on the southern half. The northern half is contracting. Okay? Space expands, time contracts, black hole to white hole. The torus is what everything becomes at its maximum acceleration. This experiment you're going to watch while I finish my talk, I want you to keep in mind when you're watching this magnet spinning around, there's no energy going into this coil. It's totally turned off. And I'll continue. Your blood cells are a torus. DNA is a torus. Magnetic fields, galaxies, all toruses. That's why a tornado is more powerful than an atom bomb. It's a one-way, living, systemic electrical machine, a self-sustaining jet. You might say a flying saucer. I found the way to calculate this torus in a perfect 3D, 4D, and higher mathematical hologram that can be scaled up and down to infinity, and which we now call the Abha torus. Or sometimes we refer to it by Marco's name, which is the flux thruster, atom pulsar, electrical venturi, space-time implosion field generator coil. And with it, it's possible to create a localized space-time implosion, a controlled desktop black hole. That magnet's still spinning. There's no energy in the coil. This is the final technology, the philosopher's stone, a reactionless drive unaffected by any weight that it carries. It's a true model of an atom, and with it I have the key to the periodic table, which a professor from the University of North Carolina told me could be the greatest scientific discovery of all time. We can, for the first time, cross from one science to another, unbroken, whether it's subatomic physics, periodic table, computer science, DNA. Remember, I said cure all diseases, artificial intelligence, all the result of ether-on flux fields. And so simply put, this torus does it all. It's a blueprint for a perfectly efficient magnetic field generating coil, a spaceship, a surgical tool, a supercomputer, and even a high-fidelity speaker all in one. Are such things possible? Frankly, yes, they are, and my team is ready to develop them at any time. What you see here was just from the most primitive approximation of my work. But the truth and reality of our project is it suffered from a tremendous lack of attention. It has been peer-reviewed by some of the best names in science, but because of our unwillingness to sell it out for private interest, it remains in the hands of exhausted volunteers like myself. Our goal is to create a grassroots energy and technology revolution by turning this information, this knowledge over to the public in an open source project. Science museum exhibits for kids, a simple book, a simple DVD, that's all we're looking to do. And by that, we want to turn it into the hands of the people to produce and save the whole world. So thank you very much.
All right, so as you can see, if you've been following my work, this this all connects very well and explains these anomalies as well. But vortex-based mathematics in and of itself was using VBM to create the coil is one thing. But understanding the underlying mechanisms and translating those mechanisms into a coherent model or framework in which we can use to predict those nonlinear behaviors, I think that's what was missing for a while, and that's what this model, the synthetic AC model, provides, is kind of like a translation from the abstract VBM concepts to the electrodynamic concepts that we have employed for electrical engineers. So I think in that respect, it does fit well. And we're going to go into a little bit of overtime here because we have some extra time. We're going to play Randy's Donuts on top of this, just to give a little extra layer of context. Because Randy's Donuts is a mini documentary, and it includes Daniel Nunez and some of the practical applications of the coil in a more in-depth look. So that should set us up a little bit more, with a little bit more detail. So we're going to play Randy's Donuts. I think we're going to watch that real quick. It's not very long. I think it's about another 10 minutes, but it's a really good mini documentary that provides more context for our presentation.
So what we're doing is we're collecting
math. It's so easy, even I get it. Even I get it. The film you're about to watch is about vortex math. It's so easy, even I get it.
Here's the challenge that we have. We don't yet have the technology. We're still going to be the traditions. Have it?
I'm here representing the vortex-based mathematics project, which was founded by my teacher, Marco Rodin. Almost 40 years ago, Marco discovered an unknown mathematical language inherent to nature, and I found the key of how to model it in three-dimensional space. The saying is that mathematics is the language of God, but until now, no one's been speaking God's language.
I went and read the Bible, I went and read the Quran, I went and read the Torah, and I decided to start to read any of the world's major religions. I went and studied on Buddhism. I studied being on a stage, which was really a pleasure.
So this inspired a journey for him, and he began to search through all the different ancient knowledges of the world, all the different religions of the world, and he found this common thread throughout, that they all seem to be onto this, right? And there seemed to be this common thread that throughout all the religions, the most sacred and holy and cherished thing was the name of God, and the intonation of the name of God. I'm here speaking because I'm at the forefront right now of the most advanced mathematics ever known to mankind. And because my teacher, Marco Rodin, discovered an
We're going to skip this part since we just watched it.
Nature, and I found the key of how to model it in three-dimensional space. The saying is that mathematics is a theory. Where that when they're found when brand goes at the state, it begins in time, suspecting the amazing themselves. The thing is he is just zero. Universe replicates alternancy, stick, atom pulse, lack of attention. Thank you very much.
I just want to pause it real quick and say, in the original video, it cuts it out before the applause, but you hear that applause in the audience. That is a real reaction. The fact that this was only an audition tape and not the actual, that he didn't get to actually present, is a damn shame. And we're gonna correct that. Maybe I'll do a TED Talk, because they're gonna be like, oh, what's your proof? We have proof, motherfucker. Model in three-dimensional space, or kind of shaded so you can see the three dimensions. And now you can see the inside, the funnel. That's the Tor. This is one of the coolest vortex-based mathematics animations I've yet to find. And it's in Randy's Donuts documentary. And you can even see the funnel, the hourglass shape, the inversion of the donut. Let's go back real quick. I just want to show you guys. See up at the top and the bottom. So that's very important because that's your inflow and your outflow. So that gives you a visual. I guess it helps visualize the energy flow.
This information is not to be privatized or exclusively owned by any corporation or individual. Instead, it is our desire to create an open source project to freely share information with the public. This device is a version of what we call the Abha Taurus, developed by Daniel and Erica Nunez.
Hello everyone, this is Daniel Nunez with OneStopEnergies.com. Today I'm going to show you a free energy work in the progress. So let's check this out. We're using vortex coils today, and let's look up on the roof. That's an old antenna, and that old antenna is not being used because nobody uses that type of television antenna anymore. So what we're doing here is we're running that wire down from the antenna over down this way into our PoE Mini. And what's happening here is that we're collecting the energy from the antenna with this little simple circuit for rectifying radio wave signals. So what we're doing is we're collecting electricity over here. So as I change the frequency, I'll be able to generate more power, because right now I'm actually using less power. So resistance is all the way down. The coil's not resonating right now. So I'm able to charge up my little capacitors over here. So you're looking at the DC voltage, that's 1.9 volts, and that's charging up those two little capacitors there.
I just want to pause it real quick and give you a little indication. See here, these burn marks on the breadboard? If you don't have these, you're not working with a vortex coil, because these things are known to fry components. They just output so much voltage.
There. And these are buffering capacitors, so those regulate the frequencies. The little black diodes, they force energy in one direction, so it creates a mandatory charge into those two capacitors. Now I have a different circuit. This is the same SEC circuit we've been running for pretty much majority of our experiments. I've got a 1 mega ohm potentiometer on there and a 3.4 volt LED. So you can see we've already charged up to 2 volts. And let's go ahead and spike this energy. This is all free energy, and let's give it the right frequency. And I'm just turning that little knob. There you go. So you saw the flash. That discharged my capacitors, and now they're charging back up again. And let's look for that frequency again. There it goes. Discharged my capacitors. Let's do it again. So I'm lowering the frequency and then raising it back up. So give it a little charging time there. There it goes. That's a spike of free energy.
But essentially, this is defining a pathway.
You know, in retrospect, he could have probably hooked up a Joule thief circuit on top of that at the end of the circuit to amplify that energy a little bit. Maybe.
For matter in motion, the path of least resistance. And numerically, that's defined by doubling. Okay, so that's one aspect of what this equation is. It's defining a doubling sequence. Now, then we have this 396. Well, what's the 396? Well, if you look into studying physics, you know, there's really only two things you can study, right? If you look up the definition of physics, it's defined as the study of matter in motion. Of course, then what is putting matter in motion? What is causing the matter to move? What is the source of time, motion, and vibration? And that's where you get to the number 9. Okay? But before I go to the number 9, I want to talk about 3 and 6. Well, what are 3 and 6? Okay? 3 and 6 represent the absolute extremes. They end in the middle of nowhere, and as an engineer friend of ours says, nothing mechanical does that. Okay? Everything mechanical connects to something else. Nothing mechanical ends in the middle of nowhere. The 3 and the 6 do that. Interestingly, 3 doubled, if you double 3, following the same process, is 6. 6 doubled is 12. 2 and 1 is 3. 12 doubled is 24, which equals 6. 24 doubled is 48, which equals 3, right? They oscillate back and forth. Now, the only thing that we know that oscillates is magnetism. And that is really essentially what this is defining. The other aspect of physics, other than matter and motion, are what we call fields, which are a lot more mysterious. You know, they have these properties like non-locality, perhaps. They seem to, in many ways, defy a lot of the boundaries we've set around what matter can actually do. Fields seem to be to have different properties.
Some of those testing observations?
Testing observations. Controllable low voltage ozone production, multiple magnetic monopole detection, energy gains using a 1-to-1 ratio, 1-to-1 ratio coils, coil sensitivity to the Earth's magnetic field, bioelectric interactions with the coil. energy reduction when charging batteries or spinning magnets, synchronization of multiple rotors at different axes, plasma excitation through the center of a vortex coil, increased growth rates in plants around coils, self-cooling properties when running high voltage, very large magnetic fields for little input power, 576 LEDs illuminated using only 1 watt of power.
And we're going to stop it there because this documentary was a little bit longer than I remember. I thought it was only going to be about 10 minutes. It's actually about 30 or 40 minutes. But we can always go back to it. That would be fun because we're definitely going to have time. There we go.
Hey. All right,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome. Thank you.
Awesome. So, Powell claimed that vortex-based mathematics describes a fundamental numerical structure underlying reality, in that the Rodin coil is a physical expression of that structure and how energy flows. The geometry interacts with fields in a way that conventional inductors do not. As you've seen in the video, he demonstrated there was no power going into that coil, and it was still spinning that sphere. It was actually getting, it actually got a little boost when they disconnected the power. At like 20 feet away, it was still spinning. It was incredible. So, for years, excuse me, for years, the Rodin coil has been a mysterious device lumped into pseudoscience with a few unexplained anomalies. You know, some people like Randy Powell, Jack Scholes, Daniel Nunez, these people have all kind of unlocked different aspects of the coil and then ended up selling them or going quiet online. And they haven't released anything. Like Randy Powell hasn't done anything with the practical applications for the coil, not that I know of. And basically, what he said is, you know, there's a tremendous lack of attention, and these things tend to get bought up and then black shelved. So that doesn't really give us room to form a model or framework of understanding how this coil is doing some of the things it's doing outside of vortex-based mathematics. And that doesn't really help us as engineers when some of the concepts of vortex-based mathematics are so abstract, they don't really connect with modern engineering. So, you know, with all that being said, we now have a refined system called the lightning thief you see behind me with the coil. And I didn't turn on the light because it was a little bright, but it's a modified Joule Thief variant, and it's highly efficient compared to any other off-the-shelf inverter or device. Extremely cheap and reliable, easy to use, easy to build, and it's all open-sourced. In his TED Talk, Randy Powell claims that vortex-based mathematics reveals a fundamental numerical pattern that underlies all physical reality, technology, and natural systems. According to him, the pattern is expressed through a toroidal vortex structure that governs energy flow throughout the universe. We call that the Rodin coil, and this specific variation of the coil is the Abha coil. So that's when you see the different types of coils. There's the classical Rodin coil, the star type coil, and then this is the Abha variation. Now, Randy Powell discovered hidden sequences, hidden number sequences inside the VBM, or vortex-based mathematics, that Marco originally didn't see, and this is where this variation of the coil comes from. Now, Powell states in his video that mathematics is not merely a human invention, but a living language, a fingerprint of God, often described as the language of God, and that vortex-based mathematics represents a rediscovery of how this language actually operates in nature. So Powell asserts that the mathematical patterns discovered by Marco Rodin constitute a form of grand unified field theory, one that predates and supersedes conventional physics by explaining electromagnetism, gravity, and other forces through a single underlying numerical framework. Powell claims that the Rodin coil is a physical expression of this mathematics, and that its winding geometry allows it to interact with a fundamental energy field that conventional electrical engineering just doesn't recognize or utilize. Now, according to Powell, this field is responsible for the non-decaying spin of an electron. The mainstream physics has not yet identified the true source of this perpetual motion for an electron. He suggests that the Rodin coil provides a means of accessing or coupling to that power. Now, Powell further claims in the video that the Rodin coil does not behave like a traditional inductive coil, but instead organizes energy in a way that allows for greater efficiency, unusual field effects, and non-standard electromagnetic behavior such as self-cooling. He has stated that when properly understood and implemented, this technology could be effectively inexhaustible, clean energy generation without reliance on fossil fuels or conventional power grid systems. Now, after digesting this mind-blowing TED Talk, that was never shown to a larger audience, by the way, it was suppressed. This was his audition video. I was then recommended by the YouTube algorithm a presentation by the name of Daniel Nunez and his wife Erica Nunez of One Stop Energies at the Breakthrough Energy Movement Conference. Now, I do have this, but voltage step-up transformers work. Winding of coil, which is, when I watched this video, they made a lot of claims. Specifically, they could step up voltage with a one-to-one coil winding of coil, which is, impossible in conventional electrical engineering. That's just not how, step-up transformers work. So I was very skeptical. But something about Nunez's claims bothered me in a good way. Right? His solutions, as he described them, were simple. Too simple, which meant they were testable for me. So I built them. Up until this point, I wasn't fully convinced on the concept of free energy and other fringe ideas like that, but I felt like it needed to be fully explored. In my opinion, it wasn't getting the proper attention, and something inside my gut always told me that, science is missing a fundamental piece of the picture, right? We never unified gravity with the other fundamental forces, so obviously there's something we're not getting. And I wanted to find the easiest projects to replicate for verification, and this coil soon became the project I took on. Simultaneously, I was exploring other viable devices in the realm of alternative energy when I found Jordan Collins' channel from Alchemical Science. Jordan was talking about the Rodin coil, and he actually had given up on it, he said at that point, because he hadn't gotten any interesting effects, which I should contact him about. I haven't thought about that, but we should contact Jordan about this because this is extraordinary. He would be interested in knowing our developments of the coil now. But I digress. That's how I found Jordan's channels through the Rodin coil. But he also had videos on the thunderstorm generator. And I became convinced that these two devices were the areas of study I needed to invest my time into. Now, during the Breakthrough Energy Movement Conference video that Daniel Nunez and his wife were presenting their coil research at, he explained the coils doing things that shouldn't be possible, right? And as I explained, they were really easy to replicate. So I went looking for Daniel's old demos and videos, expecting a huge library. In the video, he describes having hundreds of videos and tutorials. He said in his presentation, he wanted to keep a breadcrumb at least open if he ended up, having to take some of those down. But I didn't find anything. When I looked, all of his videos on YouTube were gone, deleted, wiped out. All of them on his website were gone. Not a single video was available on either resource. So I had to dig, and I dug a little further, and I eventually found a repost of one of their videos that was deleted off their channel. Apparently one of their fans re-uploaded their most important tutorial video on how to make the coil, which I actually, have another tutorial on my channel that you guys can view, just in case that one gets taken down. So that video changed everything for me, though. because the method Erica Nunez showed wasn't mystical or complicated. It was like insultingly simple, right? It was very stupidly simple. So the next thing you know, I'm elbows deep replicating 2 of Daniel Nunez's setups with the ABHA variation of the rodent coil you see behind me. I spent hours researching electromagnetic coils, circuits, physics, plasmoid behavior, antigravitics, basically grasping at anything on the fringe that could lead me to real answers about this coil. And I eventually started to find more of Nunez's video re-uploads. And some of my colleagues found some of his videos as well, like buried deep within YouTube, you know, people re-uploading his stuff, some of his fans. Which was very good because it allowed us to deconstruct those 2 methods we're going to be talking about. All right, the stereo amplifier method and the modified jewel thief circuit, which is the lightning thief, which is used to power my lab light, overhead light. So the stereo amp method required a simple home theater stereo amplifier to drive the coil. Soon after, my lab partner whipped up a modified version of the jewel thief variant that Nunez was working with. He called it the ABHA excitation circuit. Michel, my lab partner and mentor, he modified that circuit and put it on a beautiful PCB for us that I'm actually using now. So it's not the breadboard version you'll see in the tutorial videos if you follow my work on my channel. It is actually a PCB with a proper input and output. So we call this system the lightning thief. So we have the stereo amp method and the jewel thief method. Let's talk about the stereo amp method because this is the one that I had less hope for in the beginning, and now it kind of just changed everything with our recent breakthrough in raising the battery voltage under load. So originally, the stereo amplifier method was what Daniel Nunez was used in one experiment to reduce the input requirement to by 1 watt. So basically what he did was he hooked the stereo amp up to the coil, and he had a magnetic rotary that he sat on top of the coil with a simple spinning axle and a magnet. Very traditional magnetic rotary, very simple. And he spun that up with the coil, driven at a specific frequency. And when he did that, he monitored the Wattman meter that everything was plugged into, and the input requirement for the entire system reduced by 1 watt. So I looked at that and I was like, wow, okay, you know, that could be something. So when we tuned it ourselves with the neodymium sphere, instead of a magnetic rotary, like a traditional rotary, we got a 33 watt reduction on the Wattman meter, which is insane. Absolutely incredible. Then we put it on a 12 volt battery, and under load, with the sphere spinning and synchronized, the battery voltage started to climb. And I have video of this that I'm going to show you in a little bit, and assuming we have time, we'll do a demonstration. This should not happen. This is a massive step toward a self-sustaining proof of concept, the first documented evidence that I've seen personally that indicates that it is possible. It's insane. So under no circumstance should you have a system under load increasing your battery voltage. That's like you watching videos on your iPhone and the charge is going up instead of draining. Like what? So the other method was the lightning thief, the jewel thief variant. And that was actually my light bulb moment. It wasn't the stereo amp method. My light bulb moment for this whole model was when I was trying to examine why the lightning thief was doing what it was doing. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Because I was stumped by contradictory meter readings. You know, going back to first principles, I envisioned a forward pulse and backward pulse creating a synthetic alternating current. So when I tried to imagine the actual current flow in the system of this jewel thief, that's what I envisioned in my head. And you can imagine this as a forward pulse going into the coil, creating the field, and then the field collapsing, and the circuit timing it correctly along with the geometry of the coil in a way that the backward pulse, the reactive component, is chasing the forward, creating a synthetic alternating current between the two. That was my light bulb moment, because that is not traditional alternating current. And there is no terminology for this. So Michel, my lab partner, suggested adding a diode on the positive output of the lightning thief. Because in his experience on the lumen lamp, which is a small lamp right here, behind this little green coil frame, the lumen lamp got brighter. And he's like, well, just try it, you know, it could work. And I did, and it got brighter. And I was like, why is this getting brighter? I had to understand. I felt like if I understood this, I could understand why the system is so efficient. Because this system is way more efficient than any system I've ever utilized or seen, right? We're getting, I think, off of 12.2 watt hours of energy, 15 plus hours of use out of this system compared to a standard inverter running at 73 or 4% efficiency, which only lasts about 3 hours off of 12.2 watt hours. It's the same energy. So it's an extraordinary efficiency gain. All right, give me one moment. I'm going to organize my notes real quick. All right, so when analyzing and thinking about why the diode on the positive output rail was actually increasing the brightness of the system, I realized that the diode was sorting the forward flow from the back EMF into two pathways. Right? It was essentially, when you trace the actual current flow, and I'm gonna play a video here. We don't need the audio for it, so don't worry about that. I'll share it in a second. But when you actually trace the current flow from negative terminal to the positive terminal, which is the actual flow of the electricity in your system, contrary to what we're taught as electrical engineers, is to trace the current from positive to negative when you're designing your circuits. This is when I had that another light bulb moment where I'm like, okay, the diode is sorting the back EMF and the forward EMF. It's sorting, or the current resulting from the two electromotive forces. So it's sending one current to the load, the forward, and it's sending the back EMF and the current associated with it back to the battery's negative terminal. And we'll show you a video in a second, because this is kind of like a realization that I had that that was severely overlooked. If anybody actually, granted, nobody usually puts the diode on the positive output rail except in maybe fringe circuits, if you get the Practical Guide to Free Energy Devices, they might have an unconventional circuit design with this on there. It's really a Bedini-like way of doing things, right? He would emphasize placing the diode on specific places of your system, specifically high-speed diodes. So that's what got me to think, to trace the actual electron flow from the negative to the positive. And you'll see here in the video what happens when we do that. And this is when the realization that the diode is actually splitting those two components. But what that actually led to a very important and even more important question, which I will reveal after the video. And I'm going to cue up the video now. All right, so here you see the conventional current flow from positive to negative. This is the lightning thief circuit, the exact circuit. That's where the energy is coming out of conventionally when you design or are taught this stuff, but it's wrong. Wrong! Wrong, bitch! So that is the actual flow of electricity. Which raises another question, because it's blocked by the diode. How is it getting back to the battery? New problem. So watch, actually, like, very basic circuit, if you're into circuit designs and stuff like that, through the bridge diode being there. What it's doing is it's splitting the current. So this is very, very interesting basic rule that, asking myself questions, why is it doing this? Like probing it here for this reading, probing it there, resolving contradictions, all of that. I had positive results with my tests, but simultaneously more questions than answers. This little coil acted more like a stubborn child than an actual coil, right? Blocking my attempt at reading it at every turn. Every time I tried to understand the coil, the system showed an extra layer of complexity I was just not prepared for. And in the end, in that sense, John Lennon was right. The more I saw, the less I knew, and that was for sure. Throughout all the testing, patterns started to emerge. These patterns didn't align with standard inductive behavior. Patterns that were closer to what John Bedini described decades ago. Energy returning in unexpected ways to the battery. Batteries behaving differently depending on subtle changes as to impedance. The forward flow, backward flow, interacting like two siblings who love each other but fight constantly. I hit a wall with these contradictions. I saw enormous efficiency in the system, but at the same time, I just couldn't pick it up on any of the meters. Everything I was seeing contradicted the basic rule that you can't get more out of the collapse event than you put into it, right? Bedini himself said it, especially with a 1-to-1 coil, a 1-to-1 ratio winding of coil. But we were registering with the probe on the output, grounded, negative 168 volts, but only 10 positive volts. And this actually supports the diode breakthrough or revelation that I was mentioning a few minutes ago. We're only sending 10 positive volts to the lamp, to the light source, which is why a 40-watt panel, instead of, we're seeing on the amp clamp, for instance, we measure the voltage or the oscilloscope, we're seeing a lot of voltage, 168 volts, but it's negative voltage. Why isn't a 40-watt panel lighting up 100%? It's only lighting up about 10%. It's only getting 10 volts on the positive. That's because of the diode. Interesting. Now we're getting a negative 168 volts, and we've confirmed this by grounding it to the wall outlet and confirming that voltage. But that potential is there, and it's going right back to the battery's negative terminal. So this is very, very interesting. Because it denotes something that most people overlooked about the rodent coil in general, is that it's not an inductor stepping up forward voltage. And since it doesn't act like a simple traditional transformer, it's something else, right? We have to give it a new classification or designation. We have to put it in a new category, right? If it's not a traditional transformer. Taxonomy really matters in these systems. So in that sense, it's stepping up the backward voltage. It's more of a kickback transformer, or what we might call a flyback converter, where the main event, the output, was the amplified collapse itself, and the forward pulse is just the trigger event. It's asymmetrical in that sense. So I had to create new terminology to classify these new phenomena, right? The forward flow chasing, the backward flow chasing the forward flow, creating a synthetic alternating current between the two. This is not standard AC, and it needed its own classification. Because the old language had no words for what I was measuring. Maybe it was because I didn't have the formal training to know what exactly was impossible. I just had the raw data and the observations. But they were begging for a new name, right? So that's when I came up with the synthetic AC model. And when my research went from investigation to innovation in theory. Because now I wasn't just replicating other people's work, I was trying to improve upon it and understand it. Connect the dots, as it were. So going back to the jewel thief, though, and this is very important to understand, because most people think the jewel thief is just a simple self-oscillating circuit. With these new revelations, that's not the full story. Now, when we look closely, we saw something strange with the jewel thief. The energy wasn't flowing through the wires. It was flowing mostly around the wires with the amp clamp. We were getting like 250 milliamps around that wire. That's not, you know, traditional engineers would say, oh, that's just an AC ripple. That's not a ripple. You know, after a certain extent, you can't say it's a bug. And that's the feature. So when we look closely at the jewel thief with the ABHA coil, you know, we saw strange things that the textbooks just couldn't explain, or they had lumped them into anomalies or pushed them aside. But adding that diode really shed light onto the clarity of the system, right? The LED got brighter without draining the battery. That's important. And when we trace the actual current flow from negative to positive of the battery, something significant happens, something that was missed. With that diode on the positive output rail, there's no obvious return path for the energy to go from negative to positive of the battery. It is creating, in my opinion, a sort of field bridge between the two pulses. Remember, the diode will block the current, but it doesn't prevent the fields from interacting. And this simple observation revealed a hidden pathway for energy. And this misunderstood behavior is exactly what led me to the synthetic AC model we will be getting into in a couple minutes. So electricity doesn't always flow from the paths we expect them to in the textbooks, especially in nonlinear systems, or specifically in nonlinear systems, like the Rodin coil. Energy can be separated into distinct forward and collapse pulse events, interacting with geometry to create effects conventional AC models just can't predict, but the synthetic AC model can. So I guess in short, to summarize all of this, the jewel thief is not just a self-oscillating circuit. It's a circuit designed for nonlinear efficiency as long as you have the coil geometry correct in your system. However, without the correct coil geometry, you end up destroying the dipole of the battery source faster than you can restore it, leading to a lot of these anomalies being hidden due to simple inefficiencies. Right? The ABHA coil solves this issue by revealing what we missed. This circuit is nothing new. The circuit's been used for decades. But it wasn't until recently, in the last, I think, 10 years, that Daniel Nunes had the idea of hooking up the ABHA coil to one. And it was this variation of the circuit that kind of revealed these anomalies to be not just bugs, but features of the system. So before I go into more detail of the synthetic AC model, let me be clear. I'm not here to say I've reinvented physics. I'm not here to say I'm here to say physics left something out. You know, there's a big insight that emerged from the synthetic AC model for me, and that's the resonant pulsed waveform that we found in the lightning thief system, which is evidence to support the model. It's not an accident that we found the resonant pulsed waveform. And I'll show it to you in a minute. Again, we don't need audio for this, but I can send you the link in case you want to pull it up. That might be easier on your end. I'm not sure. But regardless, we will be showing you the resonant pulse waveform and the 3 defining characteristics that classify the resonant pulse waveform and why they are supporting evidence to the synthetic AC model. Because it's something the model predicted. Our model also indicates that the Rodin coil geometry affects impedance in a fundamental way. So in that sense, I guess for the layman's, synthetic AC is a mode of energy transfer, right? It's not creating energy out of nowhere. It's transferring energy efficiently and categorizing it differently than true AC. So specifically in this system, we're creating a stable standing wave where the system gives back more than it takes in by recycling energy from that collapsing field and from the surrounding environment. Well, that's going into the next part of the model, but I don't want to spoil anything right now. Let me... Yeah. Do I have... Okay, so we're not going to do the synthetic AC comparison yet. I'm going to show you the diagram first before I show you the waveform. Let me load that up 1 second. All right, so this is the true AC versus synthetic AC diagram. You can see classical AC in that sense, or what I call true AC, is just a distinction based on the mode of generation, right? We have on the left classical AC, and you see the waveform as a smooth sinusoidal wave. It's linear in oscillation. It's bidirectional, right? It's taking the same energy and sloshing it back and forth in a smooth, linear fashion. Synthetic AC is not that. Its mode, it might look similar on the oscilloscope in some respect, especially if you don't have a high-speed oscilloscope, but it is not the same thing, right? Its method of generation is different. It is non-linear in its nature. It's used, or it's generated by two or more pulsed events. So it's the same frequency in that sense, but a different origin. And as we know in different areas of science, wave origin matters when classifying that wave, right? You can't just lump them all into the same category here. This isn't helter-skelter. So we're gonna, or actually, let me go into a little bit more of a technical definition of synthetic AC for the more technical savvy audience. So I guess the main difference is we're not flipping the polarity of the signal. True AC is flipping the polarity of the signal, while synthetic AC forms a clean wave from two half-cycle components, right? You have the forward pulse to the load, and from the load, and the correctly timed backward pulse, or the reactive event from the collapsing field. And the synergy between these two timed pulses creates a field bridge, where they can be used independently but still connected via their field interaction, which is why we can separate them at that diode, but the system still connects via that field interaction before the diode. Oh, my apologies. So we're going to show you the three characteristics of the resonant pulsed waveform, which is supporting evidence to this model. And while we're watching that, I'll explain everything and how it's connected. So I'm going to put that. Should I put it in chat or should I just load it up? Let me try loading it up first.
I'm here. If you want to chat, I can try to pull it up for you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll put it in chat. So okay. Give me one moment. Oh, there it is. Copy.
More?
All right, so if you want to pause it for me one moment, just on this. Yeah,
Do
there we go.
you need me to go back more?
No, it's fine. I have it right here because the full video shows a comparison to the lumen lamp, which is the same circuit but a different coil, and it's just to demonstrate, oh, that's different. It's obviously, you know, the coil and geometry and all that, but we can get into that a little later if you want. But right now, I think I just want to show you guys and point out the first defining characteristic of the resonant pulsed waveform that we found in the system, which when you zoom in on this is a very high-speed oscilloscope we're using, one of the best on the market that you can get right now for a consumer. So it picks up all of the high-frequency interactions, right? And we're not grounding the probe in these readings because we want to capture the field interactions entirely and not ground out the back EMF component, which is what grounding it out would do when you probe, and most people do that. But it's also important to probe it floating as well. So when you probe it floating, you'll find these 3 defining characteristics. The first one, in my opinion, looks like an interaction between the 2 fields that you're creating by having 2 channels in your coil. And we'll go over this in a couple minutes, but it basically shows you what, in my opinion, is the 0 point or convergence point between 2 counter-rotating electromagnetic fields, where you see energy just spewing out of either side in a very abundant way compared to the other waveform that we were examining earlier in the video. So this is the first character. So you can play the video though. Thank you.
Okay, here you go.
All right, so this is if you zoom in really, really close, right? Okay, so this is the normal scale, what you would see normally if you just hit the default on the O-scope. Nested harmonics, look at that. There's like secondary and tertiary, and then you zoom all the way out on the macro scale and look at this beautiful smooth sine wave. What is that, you know, like, immediately ring in your head when you think sine wave? Oh, it's a smooth interaction between something, right? It's a smooth back and forth. But there is no back and forth. It's 2 pulsed events. But this makes sense, right? It supports why we see all this chaos forming into constructive, useful work. Oh, this is the lumen lamp. So this is the you can stop the video. That's all I wanted to show you guys. But this is the other waveform. So you see we zoom out on this waveform. It's not a perfect sine wave. You know, it's close, but it's kind of bell-shaped. So, you know, the coil geometry really matters for what I call field cavitation. And we'll get into field cavitation theory in a couple minutes. It really is the last component that completes the synthetic AC model and brings everything full picture. So, yeah, we can go back. We can stop sharing that. That's all I wanted to.
That was cool. That was really cool.
I know, right? I've never seen a waveform like that. I've shown it to many engineers and many people, and they're like, what am I looking at here? They can't explain it to me, which is, you know, like, it makes sense because, you know, like the only thing that can explain it, in my opinion, is the synthetic AC model. So, again, I'm not calling it over unity. I want to be very careful with my words. And since, you know, we can't really accurately measure these types of linear systems efficiency with our traditional meters because they tend to average out all the impulse events, right? These main energy transfer events happen as impulses very quickly, and our measurement tools average all of these readings out. So it basically effectively does nothing for gauging the actual efficiency of nonlinear systems like this. So I'm not calling it over unity. I'm going to be very careful about that. We have to have further testing to actually know that for sure. What I am calling it at this point is dipole preservation, right? We're keeping the dipole of the source, the battery source, open as long as possible, as noted by, you know, Tom Bearden in his work. Right, and I'm calling it dipole preservation because for the first time, I'm seeing systems that don't collapse the battery's internal dipole like traditional systems, right? The battery lasts way longer than the math says it should, even at 100% efficiency. And that's the problem. We've seen the battery voltage potential actually start to go up under load, which just shouldn't happen under any circumstance, except under the AC model, the synthetic AC model. So all of this has kind of led to 3 basic components of this hypothesis, which is the first main component we've been going over is synthetic AC. You know, the taxonomy of it, the distinction between true AC and synthetic AC. They are 2 different distinct things. just like two different waveforms would have different waves of two different waves would have different methods of generation, we would have those classified separately. In the second part of that model, we're going to get into now, which is field cavitation. Now, this is very exciting. This kind of brings everything full circle, in my opinion, regarding how to understand why the system does some of the unique things that it does. Let me bring up the diagram, because I have a diagram for you that helps with the helps facilitate the visual. All right, can you see it?
Yes.
Awesome. So, field cavitation theory is where the mechanism of synthetic AC enables, with the correct field synthetic AC, my headphone just died and I lost my place. Give me 1 second.
Not a problem.
I get distracted when something happens like that. My headphone dies and I lose my place. So give me 1 second and kick on. Oh, there we go. Okay. So field cavitation is the mechanism that synthetic AC enables with the correct field geometry, with the specifically the coil that I'm working with, the ABHA coil. Now, when the chasing pulse of your system, such as this system, interacts with the coil's geometry, they produce rotating spiraling field dislocation. The synthetic AC does not simply push current in that sense. It spins a propeller of sorts to create a cavitation bubble. And the collapse of that bubble injects additional energy, in my opinion, into the system from the surrounding medium. You have two counter-rotating electromagnetic fields placed on top of each other in a way that they compress and condense, forming a 0 point on the equatorial plane between the two. The two fields being the compression field and the rarefaction field. So this 0 point, or null zone, is where the field cavitation occurs, and it is analogous to bubble cavitation in fluid. And I'll show you a diagram of that in a minute, and I'll let you see how similar the geometry is to the field geometry we're creating with this coil setup. Now, dipole preservation theory is kind of like the last component here that connects with Tom Bearden's work and what he was talking about when he was saying and emphasizing, don't destroy the battery source, the source dipole, the battery's dipole. And what that means is don't disrupt the potential difference between the positive and negative terminal of your source. And if you don't disrupt that, then you can, get more efficiency out of your system. Now, theoretically, in his models, 100% efficiency or a self-sustaining system was very hard to achieve because the thresholds were very, very tight. But he was kind of emphasizing, trying to delay that dipole from collapsing as much as possible. So the core goal is to delay or prevent the forward current from returning to the source because it is that return path that destroys the source dipole, the potential difference between the two, right? And it collapses the potential gradient. So synthetic AC and the cavitation process that we discussed a moment ago work together to redirect or reposition this return energy so the dipole remains intact for longer, aligning directly with Bearden's asymmetric regauging principles. So using synthetic alternating current to separate the forward electromotive force from the back electromotive force and use them for separate purposes is the method here. We're separating the two components. We're synergizing them first and then separating them. We're synergizing the field effects, interaction, creating that field bridge so that we can return the back EMF to the battery and create that bridge to source without having to return those electrons to the battery. Now, there's a theory, maybe we might get some electron leakage, and that's why we actually have drainage of the battery entirely, or maybe it's internal resistance that's causing the battery to drain. Either way, the battery is draining a lot less slower than the math says it should, even at 100% efficiency. So that is very important to note here. All right, so once done correctly, though, this method can capture the back EMF component and redirect it to the battery negative terminal, which allows it to preserve the dipole further. It is not allowed to dump its energy back into the source, which is the coil. Therefore, the path of least resistance for the back EMF component is the battery's negative terminal, right? To find that equilibrium that it wants to find the stability it wants to find. Its path of least resistance it has two options at that point, right? If you look at the circuit we went over earlier, it's two options. The back EMF can either A, go through the high impedance load, which it doesn't want to do, or B, go through the low impedance path to the negative terminal of the battery. And that's what we pick up on the oscope. That's why we get negative 168 volts compared to only 10 positive volts. So the result is the source dipole might experience maybe a leakage rate of decay from internal resistance, right? Or we might be getting some kind of leakage of electrons back to positive source through the transistor. I'm not sure how that would work. It would have to be going through the emitter, which I'm not familiar with transistors on that level to know if it's even possible for a leakage to go through the emitter, because technically the energy is supposed to go out of the emitter. That's why they call it the emitter. But either way, even if we're getting some leakage, we're still preserving the dipole to a rate that far exceeds any off-the-shelf component you can get access to right now on the market. This dramatically extends the dipole's usefulness, the system's usefulness, achieving the asymmetric regauging principles we discussed a few moments ago by Tom Bearden. So the unified, this unified framework in sort of a nutshell here, the synthetic alternating current creates a non-destructive resonant field dynamic. The field cavitation leverages that dynamic to pull in additional energy from the environment. And the dipole preservation is achieved by decoupling the forward and backward components, basically starving the dipole killing loop that Bearden identified as the fatal flaw of conventional circuits. And there's a theory that I have that the system might be pulling in additional energy using that field cavitation effect by pulling in stray electrons, or like free electrons and free ions from the environment. That might be the mechanism that enables some of these unique effects, especially, you know, ozone production at low voltages, ionization, you know, etc. So field cavitation bridges the abstract nature, or attempts to bridge the abstract nature of vortex-based mathematics with conventional electrodynamics. The ABHA coil geometry creates two counter-rotating fields that compress, forming a 0 point in between them on the equatorial plane right dead center in the coil. And this is analogous to bubble cavitation in fluids, right? The 0 point where the field compression and rarefaction converge, as shown in our diagram earlier, lies in the center of the coil. The coil's primary wind intersects with an interference or cross-wind pattern, those 90-degree angles you see. This creates the opposing field out of the same energy, right? This creates two counter-rotating fields out of that same energy using the same space, essentially. The field geometry exactly represents the geometry of bubble cavitation in fluid. And I'm going to show you that right now. All right, so this is a screenshot of a collapsing cavitation bubble in fluid. Notice any similarities with our coil? So, in that respect, the field geometry exactly represents the geometry of that bubble cavitation in fluid, producing a dense, high-energy region that could potentially manifest as stable plasmoid structures, though that aspect is still theoretical. But it does align, it makes sense, and aligns with the plasmoid unification model. So the timing of forward and backward pulses in synthetic AC drives this effect, helping explain the unusual behaviors we observe. Low voltage ionization, ozone production at like 70 volts compared to 1,000 volts, with no corona discharge or dangerous plasma arc. Wireless transmission of energy at very low voltages without that dangerous plasma arc like we see in the Tesla coil. These unusual behaviors we observe, right? In short, though, the field cavitation shows how the energy in synthetic alternating current is organized and amplified by coil geometry and circuit timing, producing effects that textbooks simply don't fully account for. And it also provides a potential unifying model that might just bridge the gap between understanding VBM and its practical applications under conventional physics, right? So utilizing VBM on a practical basis for our everyday life. Because a lot of the ideas under VBM are abstract and hard to grasp unless you ground them in something that's already fundamental, already fundamental understanding that we have in mainstream science. So now we're going to look at some supporting evidence that supports the field cavitation theory, specifically the monopole test, right? If we are getting a field cavitation, that would make sense that we would be able to get a magnetic monopole, which is one of the unique aspects of this system. A controllable monopole-like field would break the symmetry of Lenz's law, enabling unprecedented efficiency, by the way. So having a magnetic monopole in your system in and of itself, which we do have, and we can show you in a minute, is a big thing, right? Having a magnetic monopole is no minor feat, right? It's kind of like considered the holy grail of electrical systems with pulse rotary systems, because having a magnetic monopole means it would allow magnetic force to be directed rather than self-canceling, right? You don't have that second pole in the way. And this breaks the symmetry that normally enforces losses through Lenz's law. In practical terms, a controllable monopole field would enable magnetic rotary generators and motors to produce continuous torque without the equal and opposite drag that limits efficiency today, unlocking fundamentally new classes of high efficiency or self-sustaining electromagnetic systems. And we've seen this with the neodymium sphere spinning. That's a lot of torque behind that sphere. So let me put up the monopole video. Give me one moment. All right. There we go. I'm pulling up the monopole video now. is detected in the system. We're holding the button down, but where is the North Pole? Spoiler alert, there is none. Test. Keep in mind that there are certain frequencies that might look like you have the monopole, and you'll hold it down and it'll blink, you know, like south, 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 south. But then all of a sudden you'll get one north, south, 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 north. So if you don't hold it down, you might be right on the edge or precipice of that frequency or subharmonic of that frequency, but you're not there to create the monopole. It's deceiving you if you don't hold down that digital pole detector long enough. I would suggest holding it down as long as 30 seconds or more to confirm that you do not have that north pole being generated. So moving on to the taxonomy of synthetic AC. I have another diagram here for you guys. Give me a moment. All right, so this is my diagram that kind of explains the taxonomy of synthetic alternating current, right? Synthetic AC being at the top and being the large, broad umbrella category, right, that everything else falls under. On the left side, we have the reactive-driven synthesized alternating current. These include things like my lightning thief system, the Joule thief, right? John Bedini's motors, the Bedini SSG, and the stereo amp method that we see with our that we use with our coil. And then the right side of the diagram is the forward-driven synthesized alternating current. These are the more traditional systems, still nonlinear, but stuff like ZVS drivers, right? Pulse width modulation systems, PWMs. So it's important when you're designating new labels for things to branch them off in the correct categories. So let me close this down. Again, most people are taught that, you know, there are two major kinds of electricity. You know, we have direct current and alternating current. Direct current flows one way continuously. Alternating current flows one way and then changes direction, changes polarity, reverses. This works well for household power, you know, radios and simple circuits, but this classification quietly assumes something that's not always true. And it's that not all alternating current or not all alternating electrical behavior is fundamentally the same. In reality, many electrical systems, especially modern nonlinear systems, do not behave like classical AC at all. These are like pulsed systems that we use. And even though they don't behave like classical alternating current, we still label them the same. All AC is, you know, AC is AC, right? There's no distinction between these two. So we're going to take a look at the fundamental issue here when you do this. And I'm going to present you a simple analogy, right? Imagine you have 3 ways to create a wave in a pool of water. You gently rock your hand back and forth, you drop a stone fast, or you fire a repeating pulse from a water jet below the surface. Now, all 3 of these create waves, and some even look similar at the surface, right? You'll see similar effects on the surface. But we instinctively understand something important here. The waves are not all the same because they were created differently. And physics already has classifications for these different kinds of waves, right? We don't lump all waves into the same category. We separate them based on the way they are generated. Your hand rocking back and forth, that's a linear wave. A stone dropping in, that's an impulse, right? It's fast, it's quick, where the start and end are the same event. There's no distinction. Whereas the water jet represents a pulsed wave. There's a clear start and end to the pulse, unlike the impulse, where it's instantaneous. However, electricity is the exception here, right? And it's weird why we have this exception in electrodynamics. We lump all alternating current behavior into the same category, despite its method of generation, which is a huge fallacy in my opinion, because if we actually look at traditional AC theory, it assumes a few things, right? A smooth, continuous oscillation back and forth, steady state conditions, and linear behavior. That's the most important, where if you turn a knob up 50%, your brightness increases 50%. Now, these assumptions aren't inherently wrong, they're just limited. As soon as we enter the territory that includes things like pulsed systems and nonlinear systems, which have transient sharp impulse collapse events, the assumption starts to break down there. Yet we still call it the same, AC. So the simplest way to understand it is that this is not alternating current where electrons reverse direction. Normal AC transfers part of its energy, true AC dissipates part of its own energy in the process of flipping polarity. You're using some of your energy by doing that work and flipping the direction. Imagine a wave hitting a wall, right? And then slightly bouncing back. You get that reverb wave. But it's not as strong because you've used part of that wave's momentum to dissipate its own potential in order to reverse direction. That's what we do with true AC, with traditional AC systems. We waste part of that energy by creating the second half cycle. We don't have to do that. Synthetic AC is different. It says that we don't have to slosh energy back and forth. We can create alternating current and save that energy by creating a synergy effect between two timed half cycle events that combine to create a full sinusoidal wave between them. Now that creates alternating behavior without reversing electrons and wasting part of your reserve. That's synthetic alternating current at its core. So synthetic AC is not a new kind of energy. Again, we're not creating anything new. It's not violating any conservation laws, not that I know of. It does not claim free energy, at least not at this moment. It's a classification correction more than anything, right? Synthetic AC describes electrical oscillations that appear alternating, but are created through nonlinear, asymmetric, or pulsed field interactions rather than classical bidirectional polarity reversing current flow. Whew, that was a mouthful. Sorry. So, real quick, because we are almost done. I promise we're almost done, and we're going to get into some fun demonstration stuff. But, let's see. I just want to quickly go over the experimental results of the Joule Thief and the diode revelation and all that. In a couple of short videos that kind of give you a visual representation of what's going on, to just put things in perspective, because you know it's really insane, you know, and it's one thing for me to say, okay, the system is really efficient, right? We're getting 15 plus hours compared to just 3 hours off of a standard system. It's one thing to say that, because you're going to ask me what the numbers are. You might be wrong in your calculations. You know, have you considered the duty cycle, all that? There's all these sorts of variables. But with the Wattman test, the Wattman reduction test, and when we put that test on a 12-volt battery and see the battery increase under load, there's no arguing that. There's something clear there, observable, that you can actually say, oh, okay, something weird is going on here that we just don't have the terminology or to explain. So we're gonna go over, Let's see. Let's do the diode test video. I'm gonna put that in chat because I want you to put the audio on for that one. Okay. If you don't mind, thank you. Okay, so this is a video the video we're gonna watch is showing you the diode secret, right? The brightness increasing with that diode attached, and I just want to show you how much brighter it's actually getting when you do that, and it's not affecting the battery drain at all when I do that. By the way, it actually decreases it a little bit, so that's extraordinary. It does the opposite of what you think it would do. Awesome, thank you. Oh, is that that might be the wrong, I might have, yeah, is that the, I might have copied the wrong link. Let me check.
So here we go.
Oh, there we go. No worries. No worries. Well, trust me, when I show up for the actual like in-person demonstration and presentation, I'll take care of all that. That won't be an issue. And real quick, yeah, if you want to pause it real quick, I forgot we monitor the AC current, right, with the amp clamp, the field interaction, how much current is coming out of the battery. And when we monitor it, it does the opposite of what you think it would do when you increase the brightness. I'm going to tell you that. So, spoiler alert. Right? Like, what? Why did it go down and not up if it's increasing the brightness? What? But again, it makes sense if you imagine the diode as a rectifier, a single component rectifier, splitting that forward and sending it to dissipate in the load. And then the back to the battery. But that's all of the video that I wanted to show you guys. You can end the video now. I appreciate We'll revisit this, and I should include this in the presentation, because if we combine these two effects, I think we might be able to increase it even more, the brightness, without touching the battery. So let me you can tell I get really excited about this. There's some really cool stuff here.
As you should.
So we're going to, I'm going to put this in the...
The audience here has been saying it is exciting. Yes.
You guys liking the presentation so far? I'm not over your head a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah.
The lights are turned off, but I see a bunch of light bulbs going off. That's what people says.
Nice. I appreciate your guys' attention. All right. Okay, yep. There we go. So one thing that I didn't go over, and we're going to go over now real quick before you play the video, is that these coils can transmit energy wirelessly from coil to coil. And you don't have to have the same exact coil for the pickup method, for the pickup coil, but it helps with capturing all that energy and capturing it and transferring it efficiently. So what you can do, and what I've done, is take this lightning thief device, hook it up to one coil in a battery, and then take another coil, hook that up to another lightning thief device, but don't hook that up to a battery. It's not hooked up to any kind of battery. That's just got its own circuit, and you sit it on top of the one that's hooked up to the battery, and it increases the brightness of the system when you connect the two outputs. Like, what? Again, doesn't touch the battery. Right?
Yes, like that. Man, you're doing stuff that is just, we need classes.
I know. I'd love to sit there and teach us like all day. That would be my dream job. Just sit there and teach this in a proper, setting, with like homework and stuff.
Absolutely, that's right.
Okay. Oh, I put the video link in the chat if you want to. It's called yeah. And this is going to show you not just what I described, but you can also like obviously power something else. You don't have to connect the two outputs together. But it does pick up wireless energy. So it's like a Tesla coil in that sense. Only it's not like oh. No, you're fine. But yeah, unlike a Tesla coil, it can transmit a lot of energy efficiently, very long distances too, if you have the input up, but it doesn't have that dangerous like discharge of plasma. I think the plasma, if there's any going on, it's all contained inside the center of the Tor at a microscopic level. Oh, yep. See, this is an early video when I first started testing with the panel.
And should I push play?
Oh, yeah, you can push play.
Okay.
The light that you see, the red light, that's being picked up wirelessly. That's the so-called free energy being picked up. Or it's just energy that's being wasted, that's recycled. So yeah, if you want to pause it real quick, I can read that out loud to everybody and what it says. The dual thief system seems to be maintaining the same time frame as the single coil for reaching 11.5 volts on the battery, indicating the potential to double the brightness without affecting the runtime of the system. It's drawing more current from the battery. It is drawing more current from the battery, but at the same time, but at the same speed of approximately 59 hours from 12.34 volts to 11.5 volts compared to the inverter, which only runs for 38 hours. And that's not 96, that's a wrong calculation of the efficiency of the inverter. That actually turned out to be about 74% efficient on the inverter. But regardless, that's a huge improvement. And it basically means that the battery hasn't been touched, but it doubled the brightness of the system, which is incredible. So there are all these little tricks that you can do with the coil setup and these different variations we've discovered with the Joule Thief system. So it's very exciting, and you can see all that in the do-it-yourself guide that I have. I'll put that guide before I end the presentation. Before I do the demo, I'll put the guide in the chat for you guys. But it is on my channel and website, and I try to post it everywhere I can. So now we finally come to the showstopper, the moment you guys have all been waiting for, right? This is... I just realized I forgot to put the do-it-yourself guide in chat, although it doesn't matter because I linked the channel and people will be able to find it, hopefully. The Wattman reduction test, the thing that changed it all for me. And this is going to be the moment where if any engineers are here, they're going to start scratching their heads and saying something's up here, because for the first time ever, the concept of a dipole preservation in your system becomes visible. It's not just theoretical anymore. You know, it's not just Tom Bearden talking about in, you know, like some recovered lecture from the 90s, how to do it. This is something we can actually see happening. And we finally, and I'm very proud to finally be able to bring this proof of concept of some of Bearden's ideas to you guys in this conference. So as we stated earlier, originally Daniel only experienced a 1 watt reduction on his Wattman test. And we got a 33 watt reduction with a neodymium sphere by changing the field geometry of the rotary, right? It complements the torque of the coil more. And allows it to spin faster and, in my opinion, synchronize with a subharmonic of that resonant frequency. So I'm going to show you the Wattman reduction test, where we got, in this test, we get a 24 watt reduction. Still significant, but we further tuned that. And if anybody wants details on that, they can ask in the chat, but we're going to skip past that because I have it documented on my live stream so much at this point. It's not even worth going into. Basically, all I did was increase the volume. That's all you have to know. And we got the same amount of reduction. But I'm going to put that into the chat for you, and we're going to load up the Wattman reduction test. Now, keep an eye on the watts on the Wattman meter. They're going to be going from, I think, yeah, they're going to be going from, I think we go from like 33 watts or 24 watts to 14 watts. So it's a 10 watt reduction in this video. That's right. This is the 10 watt reduction video. I guess I should explain why it's only 10 watts. So the stereo amp in this video, I didn't have the volume turned all the way up. And when you turn the volume up, it increases the draw from the battery or source or the wall. So it'll go like from 24 watts on the wall to 55 watts. Oh no, you're fine. You can play it. You can play it. So 7, I guess there's no sound. 7.3 is just the system on without any frequency. So now we put in a frequency, and it goes up to 24 watt consumption. Then we put in our magnetic neodymium, our neodymium magnet, and we tune it up and spin it, and we try to get it as close to that resonant frequency as possible. Now it can't get fully there with the battery, but on the wall unit, the power supply can easily get there. And here you see we dropped the wattage consumption by 10 watts. We got that all the way up to 33 watts is what we maxed it out on the system. So imagine about 50 or so, 55 watts or so, right? Going down to 14. Yeah, it's incredible. And when you see that actually go to 33 watt reduction, like, you almost need a diaper, you know? Give me a second. I mean, seriously, I wasn't over-exaggerating there. Like, I almost shit myself when I seen some of these results on these tests. Especially when we hooked it up to a 12-volt battery and saw the voltage actually increase, which we're going to go over in a minute. That part really, like, it made me step back and say, what the fuck? Like, seriously, that shouldn't fucking happen. I'm sorry to curse, but that is really important to emphasize. That should not happen if you're thinking about, you know, electricity in the conventional way. It just shouldn't happen for any amount of time. And I think the longest we got it, we're going to try to do it again. I'll have to recharge the batteries with the negative electricity again, but I think we got it running for at least 5-6 minutes, charging upward while under load. So that is no small feat. That is extremely huge. That's really massive, because I don't think I've seen anything else like that from anybody, including people working with these coils. But that's fine, because I'm going to be explaining everything anyways. But I'm gonna put this one up myself so we can skip through it a little bit. But it is the same experiment, except we're moving it from a power supply and the wall power to a 12-volt battery. All right, this one is linked to a live stream. We're gonna skip over that because I do a live demonstration that basically goes over the same exact thing, only it's a better angle. So you can actually see it better, and it's with 2 multimeters. We ran for this conference test, this demonstration I did, we ran the same Wattman reduction test on the 12-volt battery, both negatively charged and positively charged, with 2 multimeters hooked up. So there's really no, like, questioning what's going on here. You know, like, oh, something funny going on with that damn multimeter. There's something funny going on with your damn multimeter there, son. No. We got 2 multimeters hooked up on this one, and it's like right in front of the camera, so you can clearly see it. It was a lot better set up. I wanted to make sure, like, this is clearly documented. So, nope. And then we go back down. Out. We can go fuck yourself because it's already out. I'm gonna skip past this part though. Hopefully we're gonna set up here momentarily. They have sentimental value though. All right, so we're gonna close this up here very shortly. I appreciate you guys for bearing with me in this long presentation because it is a lot to take in, but it is important to give you the full context of everything, given how profound the implications are. So we now have a theoretical model, though, to unify these electrodynamic anomalies. Anomalies from systems like the Bedini SSG, and Rodin coil systems, right? Our resonant pulsed waveform shows kind of an internal balancing point between those two systems. And the diode really shows us how to separate those energies while they still remain connected via a field bridge. These experiments, they clearly show some sort of dipole preserving behavior. Now, if you put it all together, it really gives you a coherent functional energy system that violates nothing but reveals pretty much everything that's been hidden. This is physics we never really finished. And to summarize, though, this is what I've measured. This is the model I'm using to make sense of it. It fits my data, and I could be wrong. It's still just a theory, right? Technically it's a hypothesis because it's a testable theory, but it's still just a theory, and I could be wrong. But the anomalies are real. And I'm here to inspire you so we can figure this out together. Because this model is definitely not complete. It's just the start. This work isn't about throwing out physics. It's about expanding what we already know to be true. And I'm not trying to confuse anybody with, esoteric nonsense or gatekeeping word salad like you hear in a lot of these communities. My research is primarily about open sourcing discoveries and translating complex science for normal people to understand and educate, and to educate them. Empowering a new generation of free-thinking engineers. Building on the shoulders of giants and attempting to not repeat their mistakes. What we want to do here is unlock zero-point energy in a way that anyone can access and understand, not just someone with a degree. Because if there's one thing I've learned on this journey, it's that the universe is not hiding secrets. It's really not. We just stopped looking. We gave up. We split spirituality from science. And when we did that, we really doomed ourselves. So I'm here to say, let's start looking again. We can find all these videos that I've shown you here in my presentation on my website and YouTube channel, along with the comprehensive do-it-yourself guide. It's available for everybody. I spent a long time putting that together to make sure everybody can follow it and replicate these tests. They're not that hard if, you have a background in, putting small circuits together, say. So there's a lot of theory in there, and I'm soon going to include my synthetic AC model in that guide as well. It is available for my Patreon crew as of right now. But everything I do is open source, right? Even if it's behind a paywall, it's just temporarily to fund my research. And then usually I keep it behind a paywall for like a week or a couple weeks before I eventually release it to the public, because I don't want to hold anything back, anything important that's for the that's going to lead to progress, at least. So, in that sense, it's my opinion, my philosophy, that science should not be hidden. It shouldn't be kept to yourself, right? It's not something that should be privatized for commercial gain. It's science. It should be taught, So what you'll find on my channel, if you like the presentation I've given here, isn't gatekeeping. It's just progress and fun. I try to explain things as I learn them, and you'll see me learning as I go as well, because I'm a student as well as everybody else. We're all students and teachers in that sense. So, long story short, and I promise you this is the end of the presentation, we were able to independently verify most of the claims of the inventor, Daniel Nunez, and those like him working with the rodent coil, using this working model, the synthetic AC model, to understand some of those nonlinear energy systems. And up until this point, we saw the anomalies. We saw that, some people were achieving like great effects, but even they didn't have a model to explain what they were seeing in a comprehensive way like this. So this is the main difference. We now have some kind of a framework to kind of predict and build upon these nonlinear systems. And we're not just aiming in the dark anymore, trying to, fit a square into a round hole because we're using the wrong model. And that's really what we're doing when we're trying to understand these systems conventionally with the conventional models we're given. So that's all I have. Don't forget, for those who have been inspired by my work and would like to see me at the next event in person to do demonstrations and answer questions in person, please consider donating to my Patreon or Cash Apps. They really help out with my funding. I am on a really tight budget here. I'm in a single bedroom apartment doing these, you know, scraping together this from the budget and you know, scraping together this for this part of the budget. It's a slow progress when you don't have the right fundraising mechanism. So with that, I just want to say thank you for your attention, and thank you, Kimberly, for this opportunity to present all of this amazing, groundbreaking information. I am going to take a quick break to go to the bathroom, and I'm going to set up the demonstration. So if you guys, I don't know if you guys want to take like a quick 10-minute break while I get the coil set up. I'm also going to log in, so don't be afraid. I'm going to log in twice to the meeting if I can. With my laptop, because I want to show you guys the meter and have the overall angle of the lab as you see it now.
Absolutely. That sounds good.
Awesome.
So we'll go ahead and take a 10-minute break, and we'll be right back with the live demo.
Thank you. Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, guys.
Yes. And as Ben's taking a break, I just want to encourage everybody, not just here, but online, and the people who are going to see this in the future, to definitely go and support Ben's work. Just by joining the Patreons is huge. Not only are you contributing to leading edge science, but you're actually getting something back. A lot of channels can't say they're giving you information back, literally giving you open source information for you to try this at home. So make sure you go out there.
Exactly. And all of the documented information on synthetic AC theory, the whole model, and everything I have so far on the model is all there, available for my Patreon and YouTube membership crews. So if you support my research, you'll get access to things like that. You know, I want to make sure you have access to it before it goes live. Basically, you know, while I work out the kinks, you know, it might not be a fully complete model. I'm not comfortable with releasing that document to the general public until it is worked out fully. So this is like a way of you guys getting a sneak peek of that work in progress as a way to show my gratitude for your continued support. And there will be more things like that coming soon. And as I gain more funding and more attention to the model, hopefully we'll be able to focus and shift focus more from my main job, which is not this, to this being my main job. Research with the coils, research with these alternative energy and propulsion devices, open sourcing the technology that I find, and helping everybody to understand the underlying science behind them on a fundamental level, and not just throwing out random, you know, nonsense that, you know, academics can understand. So that's the goal. We are going to skip forward here, though, in this video, go right to the demo. And then, after the demo, we're going to take a short break. If anybody has to grab some snacks or some food, we'll be back with the rest of the Randy Powell documentary, Randy's Donuts. So that will be fun before we close up the live stream. I want to thank everybody for tuning in this evening. If you haven't already, hit that like button. It really helps out. We were up to like 10, 12 people. And as soon as I started talking about the battery voltage rising under load and self-sustaining proof of concepts, that just immediately went down to 1. And we have 4 people talking in chat. Like, why did the viewers go down to 1? And then it went up to 2. And it's been bouncing up and down for a while. So I don't know if there's like some jackass with a button who's trying to trick people into thinking like this isn't as important as it really is. But this is fucking important. This is probably one of the most interesting things you'll find on YouTube right now if you're scrolling through live streams, wondering about new science and new realms of science and technology. Because we're literally dealing with 0-point energy in these systems. We have a model, a working scientific model that doesn't break any conventional laws to understand it. So that's the reality of the situation. We're about to watch a video right now of a live demonstration I did on Saturday, and I've given many live demonstrations where we're increasing the battery voltage under load. Now, what that means is that's like you charging your battery without it connecting to the wall while you're using it. That's like you watching a video on your iPhone without it connected to any charger. Just watching a video on your iPhone, and instead, you expect the charge on the battery to go down while you're watching a video. Instead, it's going up. That's what this is equivalent to. It's a proof of concept. The first time in my life that I've ever seen evidence of a self-sustaining system proof of concept, right? We don't know what it's actually practical for in that sense, but we know it's a proof of concept to show us, oh, a self-sustaining system could very well be possible. And we have the theory to back it up. The idea is to understand why this is possible in the first place, whereas traditional models, traditional thinking, it just doesn't understand why this stuff is happening. It doesn't have an explanation for it. It doesn't explain it at all. In fact, it goes one step further and says it's impossible. At least on the surface. I mean, when you dive into the physics, because then again you get the difference between electrical engineers and physicists who electrical engineers will be like, oh, like you're violating the laws of physics, but then the physicist says, well, no, we're not. We're talking about the difference between open systems and closed systems. The laws of thermodynamics, as we know them, are for closed systems. So there's a distinction there, but since that distinction hasn't really had any kind of conventional translation that engineers can actually make sense of, it's only been theoretical and abstract to this point. They're just going to say, oh, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, when I design my system, it doesn't matter. But we have a theoretical framework with synthetic AC to actually understand that now and make that argument, which is really exciting. I mean, there's a lot of really exciting things happening with my research that I'm really proud of, and I really feel blessed that I have not only the honor, but the great responsibility in disseminating this information to everybody, because it's just that important to know what is going on here. These coils should be taught in schools as standard practice, and nobody knows about them outside of, communities who are looked upon as, communities that worship pseudoscience, which is simply not the case. Yeah, there are a lot of misconceptions about the coil, but it is not pseudoscience. It is extremely important and relevant. This is real. So let's put this up on the screen. This is a real effect, as Tom Bearden would describe.
Allowing the creator to move through all of us. And it's beautiful through the water.
Me?
Yes.
Awesome. So what you're seeing here are two multimeters. They're hooked up to the battery. I just wanted to give you two meters instead of one. So it's not like, oh, this is something's funny with this meter, huh? So we're going to be putting a frequency into the system, spinning up the sphere, and getting it to synchronize at a subharmonic of the resonance of the system. It's not going to synchronize forever. It'll eventually start to go back down, but it will hopefully start to climb in this one. I am using a negatively charged battery, and as you can see, it is low. I didn't have enough time to charge it all the way because it takes a long time. I just thought of it a couple days ago. I was like, I should probably try this. So I'm going to try this first. If it turns out it's not enough power, we do have a positively charged battery right here that we're going to hook up to it as well. So stay tuned. And if you see that you'll see the voltage go down when I turn on the system. But when I synchronize it, watch for it to start to go up. And if it starts to go up, then you can get your diaper out. All right, so I'm turning it on now. We've got 6 hertz inputting into the system. You'll start to hear it. Actually, let me give you guys a closer look. So that's 6 hertz.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It's really wiggling. I just wanted to show you. Like it's a very powerful system. Look at that, it's still wiggling right here.
Yeah, that's cool.
And that's not, yeah, nothing into the 6 hertz, nothing. So. Let me turn this off actually. I forgot to put on my PPE. I'm a bad teacher. Give me 1 second. I gotta put on my hard hat. But it is named
spins
fracture.
So
it does appear to spin. I think it
spins in a certain direction. Someone was asking if the marble spins in a certain direction.
So the neodymium sphere, it does appear to spin. I think it's clockwise, but I can't be positive on that just because it spins so fast. It's hard to tell. I've tried to mark it to determine that, and I haven't been able to keep a marker on it long enough for it to like show me. But I think it's clockwise.
Counterclockwise is what I meant to say.
It does spin in only one direction, though. Yeah. All right, so we're going to increase from 6 hertz to get it fully synchronized. You're going to hear it spin smooth. We're going to stop at, 71 hertz was our cutoff. I went 1, 2, I was aiming for 70. So you can see the system's tuning process is a little involved. So let's tune it up again.
Thanks, John Gray. I really appreciate your support, buddy.
Oh, it's climbing. You see it? You see it climbing?
Yes.
Look at that. More documented evidence. I hear it's slowing down though. You hear it?
Yes. Wow.
So now it's slowing down. It's slowed down. It's still spinning, but that's when it desynchronized. You see it's going back down.
So this is the negatively charged battery. We just got a little bump because it was really low charged. We're going to try it with the positive one, which has a little bit more. And you should see it, the effect a little bit better.
The second meter. Was the second meter going up too?
Yes, they were in
It was,
sync.
okay. The lithium battery. They're very sensitive to pulsing systems, and I have not tested it with them yet. They're very prone to catching on fire and exploding under the right conditions for pulse systems, so you have to be very careful with lithium.
Hence why I'm completely against lithium batteries, because I'm pretty convinced they're all bombs.
They are a hazard for sure.
Yep.
A nuisance at the very least, but I do not like them. Honestly, I'd rather test with an acid battery, but I do aim to explore that option just to see what happens, but I need to make sure I have a safe environment to do so, you know, like a proper lab and all that.
Well, we'll try and shove some Patreon money your way. I don't nickel metal hydride.
So somebody said something?
What was the question?
About nickel metal hydride.
What about nickel hydride batteries?
So I've only tested the lead acid as of this far, and that's only because John Bedini recommended lead acid batteries for negatively charged systems. But it's not to say they might not work, or they might. That's not to assume they won't work, right? They could very well work under the right circumstances. So I just haven't fully explored that yet. All right, so you can see this battery is, oh wow, it went down a little bit. Yeah, this one might be a little bit damaged because we let it drain a little bit more, but still it has enough energy to do the test again. I was hoping it would be a little bit more charged than that, though. Unfortunately, it's not. This one, it looks like I'm going to have to drain completely and then use the pulse recovery system of the Bedini, use the pulse system of the Bedini to recover the battery. Because you can heal the battery with the Bedini SSG. It's just, it takes so long to do these charging, to charge the battery with that system. So, all right, so we're going to try this one more time, starting at 6 hertz. Power's on. You can see immediately, I turn the power on without no frequency. The power or the voltage goes down. So it's starting to decay. Starting to go down. Now we're turning on the frequency. Turning it up. We'll go back to 70 hertz if we can. 70 hertz. Looks like we're climbing, but I just heard it desynchronize. Or no, maybe not.
Yeah,
it's going up. You can hear it slow down though. It hasn't desynchronized yet. Thank God. Oh, there it goes. So yes, these batteries, if they're a little bit more fully charged, I think they would last longer. Like we got our one test last like 5 minutes. Oh. And the faster you can get it to spin, the faster that goes up.
So it turns out it actually wasn't the battery. It was the fact that I needed to place the sphere within the shot glass container further down into the coil. I needed to shove it further down. There's zip ties that I used to hold the coil onto the frame that were kind of preventing it from reaching that true null zone in the center of the torr of the coil. So we did do this experiment again, and we got it on a fully charged battery, 12.7 volts, to go all the way up to 13 volts, or 12.9, or just 13, something like that. It was extraordinary. So by pushing that shot glass and sphere further into the coil, I discovered that was the reason why the replications of the original test kind of didn't hold up to the original test. The original test was a lot more prominent in the fact that the effect lasted longer, and that was simply because I might have put that shot glass a little bit further into the coil, and I was a little bit hesitant to do that at first because I didn't want to scratch the wires, but with the zip ties in the way, I don't think I can. I think it's just the right size. So by shoving that further, we got it to last a lot longer, like 5-10 minutes, and it charged all the way up to like 13 volts from 12.7 volts. So this is just a demonstration of the effect, and we will do further experimentation with this as I fully condition the battery with negative electricity. Now again, at this point, the battery was partially sulfated. It wouldn't hold a charge past 12.7 volts, I think it would charge up to, and it wouldn't hold past that. Now, it's holding at 13.10 volts for over 3 days. So it's basically, its resting voltage is 13 volts now, so it's fully, I can confidently say it's fully recovered and partially conditioned. It's on its 6th cycle. I believe we need to finish the 5th cycle by draining the battery. So that's the portion of the 5th cycle we're on, and then we start the 6th cycle. We have probably about 14 more cycles to go through of charging and discharging this battery before we can confidently say that it's fully conditioned with negative electricity, or, as I theorize, embedded with plasmoids, the plates of the battery being embedded with plasmoids. That could be a reason why we see the effects with negatively charged batteries.
There we go. It's going up again. I adjusted the frequency. Oh, now it's going down. So you can hear it. There's a correlation between when the sphere starts to desynchronize and when the voltage starts to decay again instead of charging the battery.
Fascinating.
Now, Ben, do you think that magnet sphere that's spinning has got to be?
So as I'm saying this, I thought it desynchronized, and I'm looking at it, and it didn't. It's actually continuing to go up. You see it's at 12.34 now. Okay, that's way past what we started at. Remember, when we turned it on with no magnet in there and just the frequency, it was decaying. It was 12.24 and going down. Now it's at 12.34 while it's under load with the frequency but the sphere spinning, the magnet spinning. And also remember that the resting voltage with the system on, the volume all the way up, but no frequency being played or put into the system, i.e. no amplification for the system, just its base input requirement, that was at 12.43 volts. So if we can climb past that, then we're really onto something, and that's what we've proven. I believe we do it in this video, and we've done it in other videos where we go past that threshold. So at that point, that's like filling a bucket with more water. Where's the extra water coming from if your bucket's already full? Is increasing the battery under load. This is very important. This is absolutely huge. I want people to understand this. It took me weeks for it to sink in just how massive this is regarding evidence of a self-sustaining system and, free energy devices in general. Like, if you were looking for evidence of self-sustaining systems, this is exactly the effect that you would be looking for. Exactly the effect you would be looking for.
The same frequency as harmonic ratios with the 369. It's either 90, 180 out, and I'm referring to the RPMs of that ball spinning. Is there a certain resonance of that ball spinning in RPMs that?
Or maybe it's actually not going up. Oh no, I stopped the system. Okay, so it's actually, that's just going back up to resting voltage. My bad. So that wasn't actually going back up. Right here is just going up to resting voltage. But if we rewind it, you can see.
Right, so give me 1 second, I'm gonna mute it.
So let's rewind it because that's very important. So that was just going back up to resting voltage. That was my bad. I thought it's hard to hear it when the sphere is spinning in this video. That's why I really need a second pair of hands to record this. But okay, so we're running the test here. Okay, yeah, so 12.46 is our resting voltage.
To charge the battery with that system. So, all right, so we're gonna try this one more time, starting at 6 hertz.
Again, we did this on live stream and got it to go up for like 5-6 minutes straight.
Turn the power on without no frequency.
Okay, so we turn the power on the stereo amp, and it goes down a little bit, and it's decaying now because it's consuming power.
The power or the voltage goes.
The circuit is on.
So it's starting to decay.
Now again, there's no frequency being put into the system, so there's no amplification necessary. So this is the resting state of the system, just inputting the basic requirements to be on, the on state of the stereo amp receiver, and that's it. There's no magnet spinning at this point. So when you have that frequency being input into the system, though, without the magnet, that goes down because you're doing work. You're providing the amplification necessary for that effect. So it goes down to, I think, like 12.34 or something. So we surpassed that in this video. That's a major checkpoint in and of itself. But in a future video, and I will go over this, you know, because I'm in the process of re-uploading some of these videos, and we'll do it another time on live stream as well. But we're in the process of, you know, just documenting as much as we can. And in the future, we're going to show more clearly that this is not just an anomaly, right? As I've stated before, we brought a battery that was at 12.7 volts fully charged all the way up to 13 volts using this method. That's not like a small feat. You know, that's going way past that threshold. And even to the almost slightly charging territory. Now, you want maybe, for a slow charge, you can take anywhere from probably 13.5 to 14 volts. But if you can get it in that territory, oh, you're charging the battery faster than you're consuming power at that point. So this is very significant. And it's worth paying attention to, no matter how subtle the effect is in this video compared to the other effects that we've seen in our live demonstrations. But that's just the unfortunate situation where I wasn't aware that I needed to shove that glass further down into that electromagnetic coil, the rodent coil. It needed to be fucking shoved further down into that hole. And if I did that, it would have been a lot easier to remain synchronized to that spinning frequency. So that right there is a big step toward, you know, documenting some of this even further. So, you know, it's undeniable. And I do have that live stream. I got to go, you know, back in my archives and find it, and I'll repost it because that was an important one. And yeah, and it's unfortunate that not a lot of people watch these live streams. I think more people watch the actual videos uploaded. So we're going to have to switch focus to that. And again, the multimeter in the back is a little bit more sensitive. So the one in the front might be a little less accurate and a little less fast. So it might be a little delayed compared to the one in the back. But it's pretty close. So it's close enough. Now we can see it going down. Putting in the frequency, and you can see, okay, putting in the frequency is the load. Okay, this is what the load is because it takes energy to modulate that signal. Okay, it takes energy to manipulate and I guess for lack of a better word, mold that signal into the frequency. Like the higher frequency you have, the more energy you're going to use out of your system because the more you have to, you know, modulate the signal. If that makes any sense. So right now, the word I was looking for there was amplify. Without any magnet spinning, just the magnet in the center just wiggling or whatever. But that's not spinning. It's not synchronized. It's not what we consider synchronized with the field because it's not spinning. It's just wiggling. So it's in the center and it's going down significantly, 12.30 and dropping fast. But now, watch as I raise the frequency and get that sphere to synchronize with the field of the coil. Look, it's already at 12.25.
We'll go back to 70 hertz if we can.
We're going to climb up to 70 hertz. You can hear it spinning a little bit. And look, immediately it starts to go up. As soon as we get close to that 70 hertz mark, and again, that is not the frequency we need to be at to fully synchronize. We need to be at a little bit higher. Like it's my theory that we need to be at least 100 to 120 hertz. If we can get it to go to 100 to 120 hertz, we can get this to just continue to rise indefinitely. The problem is to get it to go that high, we need more than 12 volts from our battery, and we only have a 12 volt battery. What we need is like an 18 volt battery. I don't even know if they exist, to be honest. So I'm going to have to talk to some people and see how exactly we're going to get 18 volts exactly into the system so it can fully synchronize the neodymium sphere. However, this is clearly a proof of concept of a self-sustaining system. System under load should not be increasing the voltage in the battery. Look at it, it's going up.
Looks like we're climbing, but I just heard it desynchronize.
No, it's still going up.
Yeah,
it's going up.
And then it desynchronizes right here. But look at that. Okay, it drops. And then we're now increasing the frequency.
We'll go back to 70 hertz if we can.
And it rises. Look at it go up.
70 hertz. Looks like we're climbing, but I just heard it desynchronize. Or no, maybe not.
No, still going up.
It's going up.
Goes up to like 32, 33, something like that. Again, we got it to go, I think, at least 50 millivolts up, which is like 12.60 to 12.65. Or maybe it was like 100 millivolts. It was something significant. It was increasing slowly, but it was increasing for like 5-6 minutes on our initial test with our... I'm pretty sure it's because our battery was so dead. Like, it took me a long time to charge these batteries because I charged one of them with the negative electricity using the other one with the Bedini SSG. So one of them was kind of dead. The other one was half dead. So we can run this again. Not tonight, maybe tomorrow if the battery's fully charged by tomorrow or something. But let's continue this because we are at the end here. It's insane. Absolutely insane. To your question, Paul, I'm not certain. There are a lot of aspects of the system, specifically under the model that we're viewing it, the lens we're viewing it now, that haven't been worked out mathematically. And Malcolm Bendel actually reached out to me while I was doing a podcast the other day on the subject, and he asked me if I'd been in contact with Marco, and I said I didn't have his contact information. He sent me Marco's contact information to make Marco aware of some of this, and he also sent me contact information for a gentleman named Richard Herlick. So I guess Richard Herlick should be able to help me make sense of some of this mathematically. So that's kind of going to be the next step of the AC model, is to try to make sense of it with mathematics and back it up to form like a proper scientific paper that could be, peer reviewed and such.
That's very exciting. Good
Yeah.
job there.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Yes.
It's kind of disappointing that the effect didn't last as long as I wanted it to, but it still demonstrated exactly what you needed to see, which is something that shouldn't happen.
And great proof of concept, right? So you're able to replicate it again and again.
Yes.
And just because it's varying lengths, it doesn't make it not so. It just means that we need to fine tune it and keep our research going.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Ben. And is there anything you wanted to conclude with tonight?
I just want to tell people that it doesn't matter if you have a degree in any of this stuff or not. If you're interested in pursuing your passion, pursue your passion. I never thought I'd be able to become someone to present this to the world. It somehow just kind of fell on my lap. But at the same time, it's a lot of responsibility, and I'm trying to do the right thing by making sure everybody understands what's going on here and not like just selling it to a private company and, that's that. I don't want to repeat the same mistakes of history. So I just say if you're passionate about this stuff, I don't care if you have a degree, contact me if you're interested in collaborating, or if you have questions, or if you have an extension to the model, something I hadn't considered, or if I'm wrong on something, obviously contact me. I want to be right. So, I just encourage everybody to, follow your passion in that sense, and don't let the silly nonsense of having a degree from a fancy school hold you back from pursuing those answers.
Absolutely. I think it's a test that everybody who is presenting tonight is not specialized with a degree, which makes it even more validating, in my opinion, and really bringing forth true theory as well as demonstrations, because it's these kind of out of the box thinking that brings forth and pulls onto the earth the new concepts or even the old concepts as a new form of discovery in our generation. So it's been such a wonderful presentation. And Ben, I'm gonna say it here in front of the world, I know we haven't talked about it behind the scenes, but this is why you're one of the stars of the musical. This is it. And it's really exciting to know that you're gonna have generations and generations of young people and old people, because we're all gonna stay forever young at some point, but it's really excited to know that your information is going to live on for generations. It's help the youth really come into a more broad way of thinking, and it's gonna really.
All right, let me disable that real quick. All right, I just want to thank Kimberly once again for hosting me at that conference this weekend. I'm going to try to make it in person for the next one. Hopefully we raise enough money for that to make that happen, where I can give you all a live demonstration in person. So something where it's tangible, it's, you know, like you can hear the sphere spinning and desynchronizing, and hopefully by then I'll also have some more interesting things to present. Including more information on the Lightning Thief open circuit method, which I still have not utilized at all because I haven't figured out how to use that method yet. But we're still working on it. So there's a lot of stuff that we're working on with the system. Hopefully the synthetic AC model that I've been working on will help me and others to understand, you know, how to work out some of these problems and issues that we're having. Or just, I wouldn't even call them issues. I would just call them questions at this point, because we just have a set of questions for these nonlinear systems, and having a framework helps us work out those questions. It won't happen right away because the model is in its early stages of development. So with that being said, we're going to take a quick commercial break. I am not sponsored by anybody but you guys, so we're going to take a quick commercial break where, you know, I play some of the commercials for the channel, my channel, you know, Divine Science trailers, all that stuff. So we'll take a quick 5 to 10 minute break, and then when we come back, I think before we end the live stream, we'll probably just finish off by relaxing and checking out the rest of Randy's Donuts, the documentary we were watching earlier, which is really a fun documentary that I haven't seen in a while, and it's good to watch those old videos over again, for me at least, from a researcher's point of view, just because I've learned so much since I've last seen that video. So with that said, I really appreciate you guys for tuning in this evening. If you haven't already, hit the like button. It helps out with the algorithm in sharing this content to more people. So we'll be right back with the Benefactor's Guide to Free Energy Devices, right here on Beneficence TV.
They came to claim our world. What they didn't count on was him.
Showtime! Hail to the king, baby!
They came for our bodies, but they awakened our spirit.
Gravity is not the only thing they control.
I'm done running. Time to hunt.
You might have heard a Joule Thief circuit hum to you before, but have you ever heard a Joule Thief circuit actually sing to you? This is energy recycling. 15.5 hours of continuous power compared to just 2.5 hours off of a standard inverter. While this traditional inverter already maxes out at 88.5% efficiency, we're breaking every limit with my Vortex coil system.
This standard DC to AC inverter will only run for 2.5 hours on 12.2 watt hours of energy. But my system provides energy for a whopping 15.5 hours off of the same 12.2 watt hours. That's over 6 times more efficient. Not only that, the system will keep powering my lights well past 12 volts on the battery. This isn't just an upgrade, it's a new industrial revolution. This is the energy of the future, and you are powering it. Imagine a world where energy is infinite, where the power to fuel our lives doesn't come from burning the past, but from harnessing the future. This is the breakthrough that changes everything. 0-point energy, the power of the universe itself, unlocked, and you are the reason it is possible. While the world sleeps, you're awake. While others talk, we are building. This isn't just technology, it's a revolution. And it's happening right now, powered by you. So thank you so much for joining me here on Beneficence TV and supporting our goals in open sourcing 0-point energy technology and disseminating all forms of forbidden knowledge.
Changing the system, I treat it like a toy. Ideas misunderstood, but brilliance is his point. Benefactor boy, can't you hear his voice?
Have you heard about this Benefactor guy? This dude is talking about free energy, but here's the twist. He says it's not free energy. He's calling it energy recycling, which first off is kind of genius, right? Because when you say free energy, people immediately throw you in the crazy bin. But energy recycling, that sounds like some next level Tesla shit.
Yeah, man, it's all about the branding. But what is it that he's actually doing?
All right, check this out. He posted this. Free energy isn't actually free. This is a misnomer. It's actually a mutual exchange from the vacuum, a field of energy from which everything arises, the same energy that powers an atom. Like what? Bro, that's some deep shit. But then he breaks it down. He says you can tap into this energy without breaking any known laws of physics by using something called back EMF capture.
Whoa, back EMF capture? Sounds like some serious sci-fi tech.
Dude, listen to this. He explains that when a coil collapses using a pulsed signal, the energy that would normally just get wasted, like just dissipate as heat, can actually be recycled. He says nature gives you back energy to stabilize the system, which makes sense if you think about how nature works. Like everything in nature is always trying to find balance, right?
So equilibrium, is that like how water always levels out or something? I'm trying to remember what Ms. Murphy said to me in 6th grade science all those years ago. What was that? Oh yeah, Elon, stop eating that glue and pay attention. Man, if only I had listened, I'd probably be the one inventing energy recycling instead of just talking about it.
Exactly. So he's saying that by intentionally destabilizing the system, collapsing the field, you actually get energy back as a kind of natural response. And here's where it gets wild. He compares it to pushing a swing. If you push at the right moment, you don't need to use a lot of energy and the swing gains momentum. But instead of a swing, he's using resonance to harness that extra energy without it becoming destructive. He says most traditional systems are like a surfer fighting against the current, while his method is like riding the wave to shore.
Dude, that's crazy. So he's basically saying the energy is already there. I just suck at using it efficiently?
That's what it sounds like. He's basically saying the way we harness energy now is like trying to swim against the tide. And if we used resonance instead, we'd be tapping into energy that's already there, just waiting to be used. I don't know, man. Either this guy is onto something or he's the most poetic bullshitter of all time.
Well, if he's legit, why isn't he all over the news? I haven't heard anything from him on X, formerly Twitter. He hasn't said anything bad about me on X. So, you know, I didn't ban him or anything. Look, I'm not the monster my therapist says I am. I mean, sure, I've spent millions of dollars training to beat a kangaroo in a fist fight, but that doesn't mean I'm dangerous. It just means I get shit done.
That's the real question, man. But here's the craziest part. I looked into him, and he's not selling anything. He open sources all of it. That's the real question, man. Either the system doesn't want to hear it, or we're about to find out if this guy disappears in the middle of the night.
Dude, that's crazy. He's absolutely crazy. That means if he's telling the truth, anybody could build this in their garage. You know what I say? Go fuck yourself, Benefactor.
Nope, no patents, no paywalls, just straight up, here, take it, see for yourself. Like, what kind of madman does that? Usually people either try to cash in or they get shut down before they can say a word. But this guy, he's out there on live streams showing people exactly how to replicate it.
I mean, if you want to try to take on my Tesla tech, how dare you put out better technology that is cheaper and safer? Go fuck yourself.
That's the thing, man. If it's real and people start building it, that's a game changer. We're talking about completely shifting how we think about energy. But also, if it's real, you got to wonder how long before somebody tries to stop him.
Or maybe we can think of it like how long before his Tesla mysteriously malfunctions.
Exactly. You ever notice how every time someone gets too close to this kind of stuff, they either disappear, get discredited, or somehow have a tragic accident? But this guy's going full transparency mode. He's putting it all out there where everyone can see it. Maybe that's his strategy. If enough people know, it can't just get buried.
Holy shit, this might be one of those moments, you know, like we look back and say that was the start of something huge.
A man named Michael with a vision to show. Billy told to go, he's got the spark, dreaming of a future that'll light up the dark. But on the other side, Bill Nye's on the rise with his laptop charts, he's got down all the lines. And it's just fixed, it's all in the map. You can't pull from the ether, you're just chasing a path. But oh, Michael's rising like a morning sun. With the power of ether, he won't be outdone. Now stand up and shout, let the truth be affirmed. Feel the energy flow, let's change the world. In the heart of the lab, the tension was thick. Skeptics gathered round the table ready to pick. Show fruit, fed neck, the taste beer, and I find the stream. You're just chasing a spin. The Michael smiled wide with fire in his eyes. Watch as I spin, let the naysayers cry. Draw spin fast, and a heart full of fight. I'll show you the power that's hidden inside. Oh, Michael's rising like the morning sun. With the power of ether, he won't be outdone. Well, stand up and shout, let the truth be affirmed. Feel the energy flow, let's change the world. I'm the best there's ever been. Working on energy for a brand new day, but even in the crowd, I'm still a castaway. Alienated from the aims of added nature in disguise. Ideas ahead of time, dismissed with narrow eyes. Benefactor boy, dreaming about the world you can't deploy. Changing the system, but treated like a toy. Ideas are misunderstood, but brilliance is his point. Benefactor boy, can't you hear his voice? Talking about 0 point, the points lost on them. Kevin structures crumbling from the same old stem. They laugh like I'm crazy, but I see it all so clear. Exploited labor, unnerving justice, burning ears. Fighting for a change in this wasteland of noise. But they call me foolish, whining and boys. Benefactor
Alright, welcome, and welcome back to the Benefactor's Guide to Free Energy Devices. I'm your host, the Benefactor. We're going to finish up that Randy Powell documentary before we close up the stream.
more. Hello everyone, I'm Erica Nunez with OneStopEnergies.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make your own PoE vortex coil design. For step 1, we're going to set up 2 hooks 50 feet away from each other. Step 2, securely tie your wire around the hook. Step 3, now walk the wire back and forth 24 times. Step 5. Snip the wire from the spool and tie it around the bundle tightly. Step 6. Get your wireless drill and connect your hook to it. Step 7. Now it's time to twist. Step 8. Now that we use the drill to twist the wire, it's time to spool it. Step 9. Find a comfortable spot, because now it's time to wind the coil. We will begin by doing the counterclockwise wind first, up and over. When it met the starting point, you're just going to skip one above it. Step 10. When you meet the starting point, now you may begin the clockwise wind. Just note that after the very first loop, you will be going directly under the starting point. Step 11. Now that the winding is complete, it is time to take the torch and melt off the enamel at the end of the wire. We are melting off the enamel, so when it's time to solder, it's easier to make the connections. Step 12. Now it's time to sand the ends and remove the burnt enamel. Now for step 13, you will need an alligator clip and your multimeter. Take your alligator clip and connect it to any of the wires. Right now, we have 48 wires. So being that it made a connection, this is the finish, when this is the start. Take the finished wire and connect it to any other wire. And you're going to repeat this process 11 times. So now that I finished with channel A, this makes it one wire. And I'm going to proceed to doing the same thing I did with these 11 connections on channel B. That sounds is channel B completed. Now for step 14, we're going to solder all the connections. For step 15, get electrical tape and put it around the ends of the wire that was soldered to avoid the connections touching. Now that you have successfully finished wiring and connecting your PoE vortex coil, it is time for testing. We're going to take channel A and connect it to the amplifier, and channel B
Oh my God. And looking at this old diagram, no wonder why I got so confused. This diagram is really a bad diagram. We have a better diagram that they actually had released at some point. We found it, dug it up online. But this one is kind of confusing. So if you want to refer to a diagram for setting up the PoE coil or vortex coil or whatever, refer to the do-it-yourself guide in the description of these videos, my videos, not this diagram in this video. This must be like one of the first videos that they put out after they got the coil working, regarding, you know, tutorials and stuff. Interesting. So yeah, that diagram is very confusing. I would not go by that.
And connected to the amplifier. Now for the last two wires that are remaining, they are going to be connected to the 192 LED panel. Turn it on, and voila. Thank you very much for your time. This is Erica Nunez with OneStopEnergies.com. Please share and spread the word. Many blessings.
Just this humble little device implies more about the laws of physics than most, if not all, expensive technologies on the market today. And now I found the key of how to model it in three-dimensional space. The importance of this discovery cannot be underestimated. With it, I believe we can create inexhaustible clean energy, produce unlimited food, end all diseases, travel anywhere in the universe, build the ultimate supercomputer, and obsolete all existing technology. How is it possible that we make such outrageous claims? It's because we have the secret that connects all the world's technologies into one: numbers. A living language, a jigsaw puzzle that when pieced together no longer forms an approximation or a rendition of reality. Numbers are reality.
Alright, so this is the new setup. We have the coil all covered up, looking beautiful in her base. So what we're doing here is we're running a 12-volt battery, and we're charging that 12-volt battery with a solar panel. And while it's charging...
Man, he ran so many of these experiments. I wish I could find some of these videos. I really do. Or he probably won't talk to me because he's probably still under an NDA. Because I've reached out to him many times. I know he's dropped a couple of comments on his Instagram recently, so but his interaction with his social media is just leaving more questions than answering anything, because they're very obscure and honestly mostly to do with the Rasha technology, which is an elitist technology by in my opinion. I don't like the idea of having this technology locked behind, you know, thousands of dollars worth of equipment that only, you know, rich people can afford, which is what these headphones are. I can imagine how pricey they are. They look nice. They do look nice, but they have a coil in each head, in each ear. So, and one of those coils is like $200-300 at least. No, yeah, $300 to $400 to make. And sell if you want to make a little bit of a profit. So yeah, those headphones are going to be pricey, I can imagine. But hopefully, if they do what they say they do, they will turn some heads and get people interested in the technology at least. But yeah, there's very weird, obscure posts by Daniel Nunez on his Instagram, like I think one of his recent posts is a video of him putting like 11 or 10 headsets in each in their own suitcase, or like a hard case, ready to be shipped out to. They're like prototypes, maybe, I don't know. Ready to be shipped out to somebody, but they look nice. I just I don't know, like the technology he's focusing on with Rasha is. I don't know I don't know enough about it to comment on it, to be honest. It's something to do with you know, meditation, and honestly, in my opinion, it's a gross underutilization of the technology from such a big company with a lot of resources. Like why I mean, I could see to make as much money as possible. But in terms of getting this technology out to people who need it the fastest, and opening up a market for it, that, you know, is not going to be obviously as profitable. You can still make a profit though. That's going to be done for the service, mostly. So That's the contradiction here, you know, like what's going on with Daniel Nunes and his relationship with Russia at this point, because he has all of these tests that he's done, hundreds of videos, hundreds of tutorials that were all taken down. I'm assuming like people before him who sold the technology and deleted their videos, as Marco Rodin himself even noted. Daniel Nunes, I'm assuming, did the same with Russia. And it's unfortunate, but he could have been a plethora of resource for some of these different areas that we're going to have to explore eventually. Unfortunately, I don't have the resources that he had access to during these videos, so it's going to take me a little bit of time to do some of them. Hopefully, though, there will be some more gained interest in this technology, not just as an elitist headset, but you know, something that can actually be used and benefited for the majority of humanity, you know, in terms of energy and propulsion. Because let's face it, most of the world is either starving of food or starving of energy, or both. So if this coil can, and it can help in both respects. I don't see why, you know, there isn't more of an effort to get it developed for that area, because in my opinion, it's just being wasted at this moment, this desperate moment that people need this kind of technology. It's being wasted as a elitist headset like that. What are we doing here? Meditation is cool, yeah, but where's the real technology that's coming out behind this thing that say, hey, you know, we can have a self-sustaining system that powers itself almost indefinitely until the parts wear out or whatever? Like, where's the proof of concept that says, you know, oh, we might have something here that's beyond conventional understanding in terms of energy and propulsion? There's none of that. So it's very, very sad to see stuff that's being wasted, basically. I mean, he does seem to be enthusiastic about other people using it, so hopefully, you know, it's just a situation where he had to make some money to continue his research in the background, and we can only hope that he's, you know, continuing that research and aiming to one day bring it forth. Until then, I guess on his Instagram he said he's not putting out any coil stuff at the moment. So basically just all focusing on the Russia technology. So maybe it's just he's under an NDA for like 5 years or something, and then he can go back to the coil. I don't know. I just know that the world really needs this technology like right now. And hopefully we can get Daniel Nunes back in the game soon. Until then, I guess it's on our team.
It's discharging higher voltage to turn on these lights. But the interesting part is it charges faster than it can discharge. And this is without using an inverter. So basically what you see is what you get. You have a 12-volt panel that's charging the battery. The battery is going through this box, which is creating a sound frequency, and the coil is able to harness the ether or the subtle energy in order to convert it into usable electricity at higher voltage, higher amperage, so that we're still able to charge the battery even though we're using electricity. So by the time the sun runs out, we'll be able to run these lights for the whole entire evening, and when the sun comes back, it'll charge up the battery once again. So this is kind of like one of these little solar panel garden lights, except this is on steroids. So I just wanted to share that with you all. And blessings, take care, and thanks for watching.
Humanity doesn't have to have a dark future, and it's not going anywhere that we don't steer it. We have a technology in our hands that can boom the market of alternative energy, solar cells, and electric vehicles, and change our world forever. We have already achieved the impossible, but now we need your help to make the impossible an everyday experience.
Well said, Mr. Powell. Well said. As I said before, hopefully we get Daniel Nunez and Randy Powell back in the game. I don't know if they've been doing anything with the coils for lately. I'm sure they have their reasons. But it would be nice to get a team together who has experience with these coils that can give us further direction into where we should take our system, because we have something unique here in a couple of different respects that I haven't seen anywhere else, or at least not that's been documented recently. Not to say that maybe there wasn't a video at some point that somebody did something similar and it was deleted. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen anything similar to what we're doing with these coils outside of, maybe Daniel Nunez and what he inspired us with the Joe Thief and stereo amp method. But even the videos that I've seen, and I found a lot of videos of his, we haven't seen anything regarding him testing the Wattman test with a neodymium sphere. He tested it with a standard rotary. So the field geometry was all wrong, first of all, for magnetic synchronicity. I mean, he did the magnetic synchronicity test, but his thing was, I don't think he hooked up a Wattman meter to it. And when he did the magnetic synchronicity test, if he would have hooked up a Wattman meter to it, he would have seen like it's going down a lot more. And maybe he did and deleted the video. I don't know. Regardless, that's what we did. And we saw it go down so much that I'm like, okay, let's put it on a battery and see what happens. And the battery voltage increased. So, that's no small thing right there. So if he had any of this documented, it's not online anymore. Or it's very, very hard to find because he deleted everything, which is unfortunate, because he had information on how to use this for agriculture. Supposedly it makes plants and stuff grow a little bit faster, a little bit greener, supposedly. So, but what frequency was he using for that? What setup was he using for that? I don't know. So these are questions that we have that he could answer. But unfortunately, he might be under some kind of non-disclosure agreement with the Rasha Corporation or company or whatever, which is, it's his business. We all have to make our money in our own way, especially in late-stage capitalism. But at the same time, it's very unfortunate because, the world really needs energy and propulsion solutions more than it needs, meditation solutions. For rich people. So that's where we stand right now. Hopefully we can get some more insights on this technology soon. Malcolm Bendel did give me the information to contact a man named Richard Herlick. I'm not familiar with him, but supposedly he should be able to help me work out some of the kinks in the synthetic AC model. And maybe even apply, if it works out, maybe even apply some mathematics to it to help support the model, which would be really cool. So with that, we're going to close the live stream. I don't know. If I'm not too tired, we might be back on in a little bit with some video games, depending on how I feel. But I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Have a good night.